The Michelin Le Mans Cup celebrates its first birthday this weekend, and almost to the very day 12 months ago we were all in Italy at Imola for the opening round ever of what was then the GT3 Le Mans Cup, a new initiative for 2016. Well, we're back in Italy now 12 months on, this time at Monza though, for the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup, which incorporates GT3 cars as it did last year, but also a whole load of LMP3 cars, 15 of them in total. We'll run you through the runners and riders very shortly. My name's Johnny Palmer, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Graham Goodwin, who is the editor of dailysportscar.com. It is beautiful weather in this part of northern Italy this weekend, Graham. Not exactly what we were promised on the forecast, and I think we're in store for a really fun and interesting 2-hour race.
It is perfect weather at a place that is just, well, imbued with motorsport history, and history being made again here, as you quite rightly say, Johnny, with the LMP3 cars joining the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year for the first time. 20-car grid, 5 of which are the GT3 cars, 15 LMP3 cars, and we've had qualifying already today. That was pretty spectacular. I think this is just going to up the ante several more points. It's good to see some friends and foes, these sporting foes there, getting together on the grid. Matt Bell from United Autosports effort, saying hi to Tony Wells, who raced alongside Matt pretty recently for United Autosports. But Tony, second on the grid here for the Nielsen racing car. It's Courier Cost colours, but pole, and an historic pole, another bit of history, the first in Europe for the new Norma LMP3 car.
Yes, the car run by DKR Engineering rather, out of Luxembourg, and the driver Jean Glorieux, who set the time. There is the number 3 car, and Gerard Neveu having a little look at the Norma M30.
I think he fancies to go, to be honest with you.
And who wouldn't?
But he was being dissuaded of that, as we have a quick look here at that's Pierre Fillon, the how can we put it, the more vertically challenged man in the sunglasses there. But he was having a chat with Ligier UK owner and United Autosports owner Richard Dean a little earlier. But great atmosphere around this championship, Michelin Le Mans Cup. This is the opening round of the season. Second round, Johnny, though, is going to be somewhere even more special.
Well, we all know what happens in June, do we not? There is a very big race that runs for 24 hours, but that race has also some support events at Le Mans, and at Circuit de la Sarthe this year there are due to be 2 55-minute Road to Le Mans races, one on the Thursday and one on the Saturday.
Yep.
So every other round in the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup will be a 2-hour affair at Monza, and then after Le Mans at Spielberg, Austria, at Red Bull Ring, Paul Ricard in the south of France, Spa, Belgium, and we've changed the location in Portugal for this year as well. We go to Portimao for the final race of the year. But yes, at Le Mans there will be just under a 2-hour event once you've joined the 2 55-minute races together. And as I say, one is kind of midweek on Thursday the 15th of June, and one is on the Saturday morning ahead of the big race, the 24 hours. But this is an opportunity, therefore, for a number of LMP3 cars and teams and drivers, together with a whole load of GT3 cars as well, to race on the famous Le Mans circuit and during its biggest weekend of the year. And I think that is one of the real attractions as far as this championship is concerned. But I'm pleased to say there are a number of full season entries for the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year as well, together with this idea that we're going to get promoted and relegated teams effectively between this championship and the European Le Mans Series. The ACO aiming to create a kind of LMP3 secondary division that will feed you naturally into the ELMS, and then you can find your way possibly to the big race itself in June in an LMP2 car. We're not at the stage yet where P3s run, of course, during that 24-hour race.
No, indeed. I think that if it's going to happen, it's some more than some little way off at the moment. But what the guys do get here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup is an opportunity to see it close quarters, effectively the standard they're aiming for in terms of both the driving and the teamwork and everything else that attaches itself to it. They are just a hop, a skip and a jump from the LMS paddock here, and of course get the opportunity to see all of that action live. Several teams with cars in both events. This is one of the United Autosports in their number 23, the Gulf Marine liveried Ligier, Richard Means and Sean Lynn, father of WEC racer, Alex Lynn in that car, the number 23, and they went, I thought, pretty well in qualifying with Sean Lynn at the wheel.
Yeah, and the regulations stipulate that amongst your driver duo, there has to be a bronze driver, at least one, and that bronze driver has to do the qualifying. Qualifying happened earlier on today, by the way. Looking at the number 98 machine from Motorsport 98, Eric de Donker.
That is he.
Is ensconced in the cockpit. He will be handing over to Andy Mayrick later on, and in fact standing by the car, taking a watching brief. So that's bronze driver and gold driver due to take over. As I say, cars qualified earlier on this morning with a 15-minute session for 5 GT3 cars and then 15 minutes for 15 LMP3 cars, all of which managed to get home, apart from the 44 SPV Motorsport Ligier, the Spanish entry of Alvaro Fontes and Kim Rodkier. And sadly for Fontes, didn't get much beyond about 5 minutes of the 15 minutes after the car lost a rear left wheel, which ended up in the gravel trap at Curva Grande.
But that car is on the grid, which is the good news, the yellow and black liveried car. This is the other United Autosports car, the Aero liveried, in deference to co-driver Jim Maguire, is the owner of the Aero Paint operation. This car will be shared with Matt Bell, being pushed up. It's a good-looking car, that. This is almost, it's a very thin, very advanced kind of paint technology.
Yep, they're trying to find their way, by the way, to the 8th row. That car will start from 16th position. But we've got this interesting situation. We're looking at Flick Haig now, who's going to be starting number 75 Optimum Motorsport, the Optimum Racing Audi R8 LMS. There was quite a bit of overlap in qualifying, in the sense that we had 2 GT3 cars clearly quicker than 9 of the LMP3 machines. So actually we're in the situation where row 1 is P3, row 2 is P3, row 3 is P3, and then row 4 is an all GT3 affair with the EB Motors Lamborghini Huracan due to be started by Fabio Babini. So watch that one motor away in the early stages, and Babini starts alongside Flick Haig in the Optimum Racing Audi R8. Then on row 5, 2 more P3 cars. Row 6 is P3, row 7 is P3. Row 8 has a GT3 and a P3 car, and it's that number 22 machine. Now that looks like there are issues.
That's been taken back to the pit lane, isn't it?
For United Autosports, yes.
What's going on there?
Jim Maguire due to start. Matt Bell, the second driver, he's the silver graded machine. So that car due to start from the 8th row from 16th, but they've wheeled it behind the concrete barrier, the pit wall. And the car going down towards what is a large affair from United Autosports this weekend. They're running 5 cars in total, aren't they?
They're not trying really hard enough, are they? Just frankly, the 5 prototypes this weekend.
Richard Dean and Zach Brown's team, and guys like Max Gregory, with their hands full this weekend, dealing with many, many cars and drivers. But Max already happy, having his man Wayne Boyd taking pole in the LMP3 element of the European Le Mans Series. And now they turn their attention back again to, well, this car, number 22, which is not playing ball, seemingly. And now we're staring into the cockpit of Javier Ibram, who is from the Spanish team. And their car struggled a little bit in qualifying. No, I beg your pardon, it didn't. It registered a 4th place time. Ibram Pardo Javier is the entry. And Javier Ibram, the driver, due to hand over to Matthijs Bakker. And they're 2 bronze-graded drivers, but a 4th place start it will be for Ibram. Now looking at, is that the 65 car? I'm still trying to, no, it's gone off the screen now, don't worry, Graham. But that's definitely the 3 machine that is the orange and black Norma, I beg your pardon, and the wheels on the trolley is now taking the right side of the pit wall. There's the 22 on the apron then, and there is bodywork on the ground. They've had to get the engine cover off, haven't they?
It is the engine cover off that car. I've dropped a quick message into the team to see whether or not we can find out what the problem is, but they may well be fully engaged in dealing with it. But fingers crossed they can get that car to the start of this race. Thumbs up there from number 33. But good to see. This is a championship that's performing a particular purpose here. Lots of new names, lots of new teams, lots of new drivers, and I think we can guarantee, Johnny, that there's a fair proportion of this grid that we will be talking about, writing about, chatting about in years to come, way above this level in the ACO family. whether or not that's in the European Le Mans Series, the FIWC, and or including, of course, the Le Mans 24 Hours. But this is where it starts in ACO World for these guys. Nielsen Motorsport there, coming to Monza on the back of a double win in another ACO licence series. This is the UK LMP3 Championship. And
that's Tony Wells at the wheel of the number 79. Colin Noble, the other driver in that team. But Nielsen Racing, yes, run by David Thompson and AKA Sven.
Everybody knows him as Sven.
Yeah, they do. Quite right. And that's the team that's based not far from Rockingham, I think.
That's right. Very, very close to Rockingham.
Almost immediately opposite Rockingham Motor Speedway in Northamptonshire. And there is Jean Glorieux, who put in that great time earlier on this morning. It was a 1:46.978 from Jean, the Belgian. And he starts the car.
And as I said a little earlier in the broadcast, it's the first pole position in Europe for the Norma M30. I'm hearing, by the way, from Richard Dean at United Autosports, it's had a fuel leak on the grid.
Oh, no.
So they're dealing with a fuel leak on the grid. So good luck with that, guys and girls, down at United Autosports.
So Chris Warne, who is managing the two Michelin Le Mans Cup cars this weekend, and indeed is the engineer of the number 22, trying to sort that problem out. But it looks like we're only going to have one car on the 8th row, which will be the SVC Sport Management Lamborghini Huracan. There'll be a gap in 16th position, and that car, hopefully, fingers crossed, will start from the pit lane. Clearly, DKR Engineering have had a change of mind. They were going to start Alexander Toril in that car, but that often has to be done, well, late in the day, and possibly there may be a fine to pay there as well. But Jean Glorieux is definitely installed in that car in number 3, and clearly maybe they didn't expect to have quite as good qualifying.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe it was in response to the qualifying position. So we'll keep an eye out. You mentioned Chris Warne, by the way. He's with his dual role in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and with some success behind him, actually, in the European Le Mans Series as the previous team principal of Virgo Motorsports, GTE championship winning boss before leaving that and going off until very recently the McLaren GT test team manager. So the success that McLaren GT have seen with their GT3 cars in recent years, no small part due to the efforts of Chris and his team, but now back in, well, directly into motorsport with this United Autosports squad and heading up their efforts in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and 2 of the 5 Ligier prototypes that the team are fielding here, amongst others, including the car that's on the front of the grid for Nielsen Motorsport that they sold as their Ligier UK agency. Great to see a mixed grid, albeit just with the one.
True, yes.
But it's a quick one. It's pole position. Great looking car, great looking livery for this, and DKR Engineering with some heritage in ACO Rules Racing in LMP2 and in GT3 in previous years. That's a fantastic shot of the old banking,
which for the main part still entirely exists.
Absolutely,
I'm
entirely
sure
exists.
If you're watching and listening to this back in the UK, you may have been to Brooklands. Sadly, much of that has been decimated, but
way more complete. This is a fabulous. I mean, there was actually somewhere on YouTube a fabulous film of, I think it's Max Papis in his NASCAR at the Monza Rally Days, which is a bonkers event that happens in the winter here, doing a full lap of the old circuits with the banking in a NASCAR at some speed, not full racing speed, but he's certainly not hanging around. Worth a look. It is an amazing place.
It would get your attention, wouldn't it? A NASCAR, which doesn't have the best suspension at the smoothest racetracks, but I mean that's now been concreted over the oval here at Monza, so that will create quite a vibration, and we wouldn't have any teeth left, I guess, at the end of a run like that. When you combine the 2 circuits, by the way, it is exactly 10 kilometres in distance, 10.000, almost as if they did that deliberately. And there is the grid of what we hope will be 20 cars. One of them is in the pit lane at the moment, but bear in mind we've got GT3 cars in the middle of P3s here with the true Le Mans style overlap. So there you can see row 4 with 2 GT3 machines. The pole position car, the Lamborghini Huracan of Fabio Babini from EB Motors, number 46, and Flick Haig starts the Audi R8 LMS from Optimum Racing. to the right of that shot and to driver's left as they line up, because the pole position car is on driver's right. And there is Glorieux, who shares with Alex Toril.
Terrific shot, looking across at and through the Nielsen car alongside. Tony Wells getting ready to go. Turn 1 and turn 2 here could be very interesting indeed. This is something of a baptism of fire for all involved, but what it does do here, Johnny, is it gives an immediate taster of one of the things that is peculiar to the ACO rules of racing, which is this mixed grid of prototypes and GT cars that are quick and slower in different parts of any given circuit. So this could be big fun for the next 2 hours here.
And also bear in mind that the GT cars are significantly heavier than the LMP3s. They're going to have to brake a heck of a lot earlier for the chicane than the P3 cars, and yes, it could be very interesting indeed. I hope, and I'm sure this has happened, the drivers at the wheel of the P3s behind the GTs will have been briefed to say, you ain't going to win it at the first corner, just make sure you get safely through that chicane at the Retifilo, which is turn 1 and 2. There is the option to take to the escape road. You'll have to zigzag your way through a number of kind of polystyrene blocks, and they've been deliberately placed there so that the run through the cut through is slower than the proper track. We're underway, and this is then the rolling lap for the first race of the year for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. I'm fierce there for the 46 car. It is now away, but there were yellow flags being waved around Fabio Babini's Lamborghini Huracan.
They're all away, with the exception of the Stricker number 22 car. Just to confirm, told by Richard Dean from the team that is a fuel leak on the grid for the number 22 United Autosports car. And they will clearly want to deal with that. But just to go back, Johnny, to the talking about the drivers being adequately briefed about just don't try and win this at the first corner. Because of the kind of the status of these cars, a very large proportion of them are going to have a newish gentleman driver aboard with a professional driver who they are being paid to be there to help to develop not just the team's efforts, but that driver's efforts.
Yes.
And there's a number, just looking up and down the field, there's a number of those guys that you can point the finger at and say, absolutely, that's what the game. Stand up, for instance, the one double duty man here this weekend, Alex Capadia, aboard the RLRM Sport car. He races an identical car in the LMS. Here, he's looking after Ross Warburton. The 22 is ready to go, I can see.
Good.
Which is very good news.
The grid flashing up on the bottom of the screen. So Jean Glorieux starting the number 3 DKR Engineering Norma from pole position. Alongside him will be Tony Wells for Nielsen Racing in the first of the Ligiers. Then it's Graf and Ibrahim Pardo Javier as the second row. French and Spanish entrants. Adrian Schiller starting the number 65. And Javier Ibrahim himself at the wheel of the 33. Then we've got the entry from N-Race, number 99, which is another Ligier. Jordan Perroy at the wheel of that car, and then it's Nathan Bihel who drives the M Racing YMR Ligier. 2 GT3s occupy the places on row 4. EB Motors Lamborghini Huracan, Babini, as we've said. Optimum Motorsports Audi R8 with Flick Haig at the wheel. Back to P3s on row 5. Spirit of Races Ligier, and the entry from Motorsport 98. That'll be Claudio Zidanovic and Eric de Donker starting those cars. The 6th row, it's United Autosports and SPV Motorsport. Again, an all Ligier row there. Sean Lynn to start alongside Alvaro Fontes. Then we've got Mori Yoshiharu.
All cars to grid formation. Leading car instructed to drop to 80 kilometers an hour.
Yoshiharu in the Kyo Racing car, and RLR occupy the other space on the 7th row. Alex Capadia will start that Ligier, number 14. Then a GT3 car, SVC Sport Management's Lamborghini. Cedric Mezard to start that car for the Austrian outfit. The 22 will start from the pit lane with Jim Maguire at the wheel. Duquesne Engineering, 17th place for that Jerry Kraut driven car.
To grid position. All cars to grid position. Let's stop the zigzagging, please. Otherwise, the others will not go to grid position.
Yeah, there's a gap developing
and assume grid positions,
between the 2x2
now
formation
all about the start.
and the rest of the cars.
Before you cross the line.
Lee Mole in the Lee Mole Motorsport Mercedes, Ram Racing's Mercedes with Raymond Voss at the wheel, and then it's Nico Pronk for Cox Racing at the back. And there is the number 22 United Autosports car raring to go as this fabulous sight of a mixture of LMP3s and GT3s ahead of the Michelin Le Mans Cup 2017. It gets to the point where it's 1 year old. We're back in Italy, but we're here on the 5.7 kilometre, 3.6 mile Monza circuit with its 11 turns, and that looks to be a good formation at the moment, although there's a little bit of spreading out. We're still waiting for the red lights to come on, and a puff of brake smoke there from the car from Nielsen Racing. Now we're underway, and the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup gets underway well, with everyone getting away from the line. The 22 car will be released from the pit lane as well. Now, hold your breath. Is everyone going to get through the Rettifilio for the first time? Hard onto the brakes they go, and it can be two abreast as long as you have respect. Everyone just about slotting through. Remember, the race, the 2-hour race, is not won and lost at this point. Get safely through, make sure all of the aerodynamics are still intact, and I don't think we lost a dive plane there, Graham Goodwin. Very, very impressive first run through the chicane.
Massive disappointment there for the onlook automotive concern. No parts being sold in the first two corners, but well done everybody. Actually,
yeah,
that was a bit of a worry, and away we go for the start of the first 2-hour race. So yeah, but
maybe spoke
trouble.
too soon.
Is that looks to me like the Cool Racing by GPC car.
Yes, possibly so. We will check up on that car in a moment. And another spinner further back. I did speak too soon. That's the Ram Racing Mercedes, which has been damaged. Car number 5, along with the SVC Sport Management Lamborghini Huracan, which went off track. The race leader, though, is DKR Engineering's Norma Jean Glorieux at the wheel. But issues for the 43 Kia Racing car of Mori Yoshiharu, and I'm afraid that's not going to go anywhere in a hurry. It's the rear bodywork on the road. The 22 has still not joined the race, by the way. That's is still stuck at the end of the pit lane with concerns. Yellow flag is out, the safety car is out, and I wondered that might
safety
be the
car
only
can't
option.
get by the 22 at the moment.
Yes, that's also a problem, isn't it? Can it squeeze between the car? There you're getting a shot of it now on the feed between the 22 and the wall, but the safety car has been released out onto track. Also, the 43 started off as a very pretty Ligier indeed, but after contact, that's at least broken rear left suspension, which means the bodywork of the car being dragged on the ground, and we still haven't yet been able to put a name to the car that spun at the first chicane initially. I wonder whether it was the M Racing YMR car. Is that not that blue?
It was a blue car. There are two blue cars in this. You're quite right. One of them is the M Racing YMR car,
which has not come across the line. Nathan Biel driving the number 53 car, and it is Biel who was turned around or turned somebody else around at the chicane. Need to see a replay of that. The Ram Racing Mercedes, sad to see that returning towards the pit lane with a bodywork rubbing on tyre. Well, it was a good getaway for Jean Glorieux. There was plenty of fanning out further back as well. But everyone having a relatively even Stevens start. Flick Haig not able to draw level with Fabio Babini, but Babini hard onto the brakes, and actually Haig ran the outside of Babini for the lead of GT3, albeit briefly. Yes, she got away from the Italian very nicely indeed out of the chicane using that outside line, and there wasn't contact for the YMR car. I think that was just cold tyres, late on the brakes there for Nathan Biel, silver driver, due to be handing over to Laurent Millara later on in the piece, and there was contact there for the Japanese driver for Kyo Racing.
I think that was two separate spins.
Yeah,
I think it was well, in fact, 3 separate spins. I'd like to see that one again at some point, but
okay.
I think it was 3 separate spins. I don't think there was contact for Raymond Vos initially.
There was an awful lot going on there, and Raymond Vos's Mercedes AMG, yeah, good point. So the headlight on the front right is missing. There's a puncture on the rear left, and I think that's as a result of contact as well. The inner skin of the wheel arch is sort of propped up on the front right's down as well, isn't it? So 2 punctures on that car.
I'm prepared to be wrong here, but I have a feeling that what actually happened there, I wonder if it was cause rather than effect. I wonder if he suffered a puncture on debris, spun it around and then collected the Kyo car.
And that is the wheel arch, I think, the inner bit part of the wheel arch breaking loose as the tyre starts to rip away at the rear bodywork of that AMG car. I think Ram have stepped away from that, you know.
I think that's done.
They're looking at it, and it was the hand across the throat indication saying, sorry, boys, it's the first lap, it's the second chicane.
There goes the YMR car. There's then a bit of a sort out there. There's no contact at that point.
No.
He spins by himself. That tyre's already down. and then it doesn't touch the Kia car. It's not in, but it has not been an impact with the Kia car. That's happened before he got to the corner.
Well, Voss spun on his own and then collided with the Kia car.
No, I don't think he did. I think that the tyre was already down on Voss's car when that was caused the spin.
Yes.
And then in recovering, if he did, it wasn't a big impact.
Yes.
It was certainly not Ramon Voss that caused the Kia car to spin.
In the phrase Voss spun, I wasn't suggesting that was his fault, but yeah, I see what you're saying, because the tyre already strange on the first lap, unless he'd had some other kind of contact into the first chicane, maybe, to develop that puncture. But
there was a fair amount of tyre smoke coming into the second chicane, and I do wonder whether or not the initial contact happened there, which is where the damage was done to the rear of the AMG.
There's been some shuffling in the order prior to the safety car, because the 99 N-Race Ligier, driven by Jordan Perroy, has got ahead of Javier Ibran in the Ibran Pardo Javier car. So that's a switch around for 4th and 5th places. What else have we had? Alex Capadia, a demon start for Alex. He is up to 6th position, so he was able to pick his way through the carnage there, bearing in mind Alex started 14th and he's now up to 6th and on a bit of a charge. Admittedly, he is the quicker of the two drivers between him and Ross Warburton, due to take over, but that might be a nice bit of strategy from the Darwin-based RLR Motorsport, with Alex, as Graham has mentioned, on double duty this weekend, taking part in this race and the European Le Mans Series tomorrow. And in a moment or two, we will be able to hear some reaction from Ram Racing and also find out whether we're likely to see that Mercedes again. I think it's highly unlikely, sadly. And you prep yourself for the whole weekend. You go through the practice sessions, you go through qualifying, and in a 2-hour race, your car lasts as far as the second chicane, and then, I'm afraid, has had big damage on 2 of its corners, and we will hopefully find out what exactly happened to Ramon Voss and what caused that puncture, because as Graham spotted, looked like there was a tyre down initially to cause the spin. Lee Moulds gained a couple of places as well. Now the team is still looking at their Ram Racing Mercedes AMG. Maybe there is still a bit of work taking place on it. It seems a shame to wave goodbye to a 2-hour race as the safety car has come back in. So we're on for a restart here, and it is the drag race down to turns 1 and 2 to the Curva del Retifilo, and the number 3 car then leads the way from Tony Wells in the 79 Nielsen Racing car. 3rd position is Chila, and then we have in 4th place Paroy in the 99 car.
Alex Capadia, by the way, making his way up. I think started from 7th position up to 5th already, and pulling away and getting involved with the battle ahead for significant positions here. The white car with the yellow stripes, 5th in the order there. Seems just in the rear of the shot. But close run thing between these top 5. That little Norma, though, I think is looking to get some clear blue between himself and the chasing Ligiers.
Wagging its tail, though, coming out of the second chicane. So Glorio trying to get some temperature into the Michelin tyres. All these P3s powered by the same power plant. As here comes Alex Capadia and nets himself 4th position. So now ahead of Paroy in the 99 car, and Capadia is coming through. Yellow flags briefly waved down the hill towards the Ascari sequence of corners, but they're withdrawn. Yeah, green flags, that was after the safety car, wasn't it? So a little bit of a hangover from the safety car period, but green flags now being waved to all the runners and riders to tell them that we're back to full racing conditions, Graham.
Absolutely. Flick Haig, meanwhile, still fending off Fabio Barbini. Oh, it's actually Spinelli, isn't it, in that starting that car? But good job by Flick Haig in the early moments of the race, as the leading cars run over a little bit of, I suspect, AMG-style debris. Hope no dramas for the Michelin tyres on that.
Yeah, so apologies, I'd not spotted that change either late on in the day. Barbini was announced as a starting driver bright and early this morning. That says so on my sheet here, but they've changed that around, and Emanuele Busnelli then taking the opening stint in car 46, and then we will see how Barbini does in the second part of the race. Side by side for 2nd and 3rd, and right around the outside there goes Paroy to take second spot away from Tony Wells. So there goes the 99 car, and here comes Capadia, maybe lining up these 2 cars into the Curva Grande, We'll keep our eyes peeled on that, but we do need to get a bit of reaction from Round Racing. Let's hear from Tom Onslow-Cole, who is with Charlie George.
Yeah, I'm down here with Tom in the box. Tom, that was kind of a confusing incident. What do you guys think happened?
Yeah, we've seen the same footage as everyone else, but knowing the car, it's very unusual for it to rotate like that on the exit, and we can see a little bit of damage on the rear left. So credit to Riemann, he had a great start, got us up into third from fifth in our class, and maybe along the way we've picked up a bit of a puncher, and when he's come to lean on the tyre, he's rotated. Unfortunately, he's made his way into the middle of the pack, and well, we've all seen the rest. Real shame to start the season like this, but you know, we'll pick ourselves up and carry on.
Onwards and upwards. Thanks, Tom.
Exactly that. Thank you.
What a shame, but Tom Onslow-Cole putting a brave face on it, as all will be doing down at Ram, a team based virtually at Silverstone in the UK and run by Dan Shufflebottom. So our thoughts with those guys. I don't think there was an awful lot that Raymond Vos could have done in that situation. Meanwhile, back to the race in hand, and Kapadia is a bit of a star here. Now, is he up to third position, do we reckon, Graham, or not quite made it?
No, he made it. He made it. Just as we went to the interview with Tom Onslow-Cole, he managed to get around the outside of the then third-placed runner and is right up there now. Flick Haig, meanwhile, still holding the lead in, I'm afraid, well, it's now a 4-car GT3 battle, but this is a great battle, and with an LMP3 car now getting involved as well, that, I think, is Eric de Doncker in the Motorsport 98 Ligier. He'll be a good example of where the cars have got their relative strengths. And de Doncker fancying a run up the inside of both of those GT3 cars. That's going to be tight, and he stays to the outside, just keeps clear of it. The Lamborghini will get the power down, but the Ligier well away. It's around 420 horsepower worth of Nissan V8 power against something more than that, I suspect, of Lamborghini / Audi V10. And the lighter Ligier gets away and takes that position up now into 8th position for Eric de Doncker, and that will be 7th position in the LMP3 class.
I can think of a couple of categories that might learn a little from the driving styles of these guys in the Michelin Le Mans Cup that are in the support paddock this weekend, because we've had a couple of support races that have resulted in quite a lot of damage down at the Rettifilo already this weekend, but that was very respectful and very fair driving. You can go two abreast through that first chicane, you see. There is plenty of room as long as you give and take with equal measure. Jean Glorieux leading the way by 1.1 seconds back to Jordan Poroy, and Alex Kapadia on a bit of a charge in third position.
Meantime, the LMP3s... Oh, there's the contact, there's the SPV car. That's the car that was in trouble in qualifying earlier. There's a quick rotation, not a nice place to go around either. I was just about to say, a train of LMP3s looking for a way by the Lamborghini.
And that was potentially contact with the 55, was it?
No, I think that was the 33.
Okay. No, not Ibram, a bit further up the road than that.
You're
than
right.
The 44.
It was indeed the 55.
Okay. Well, we'll no doubt see a couple more replays of that just to confirm it, but the 44 still trying to reverse off the curbs there at Variante Alta, so double waved yellows to warn of pursuing traffic. Now, this time around, can the move be firmly made? This is de Doncker again on the move, and yes, slots up the inside there of Flick Haig's car. So P3 versus GT3, and it's far closer than I thought it was going to be, frankly. So that is for 7th place overall. And for 7th place in, well, P3, of course, hasn't made any ground in its class as such, and Flick Haig's not really given away a position. But nevertheless, it seems like these two classes are dicing for overall spots, even in the early stages of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Neatly and maturely done there by de Doncker, both those moves, and stayed out of trouble, kept out of their race as well. So the GT3 lead battle is uninterrupted. Eric de Doncker, meanwhile, gets a bit of clear air ahead of him and will now try to do what he can to chase down the 6th place LMP3 car, which is some 4 seconds up the road already. Meantime, at the head of the race, still headed by this number 3 Norma, but the quicker laps are coming at the moment from Jordan Poroy in the number 99 N-Race car behind, which is making it tricky indeed for Alex Kapadia to get onto terms with the 2nd place car.
Meanwhile, the gaps come down very slightly at the head of the order, 0.9 of a second. Glorieux, Poroy, Capadia, and then the gap is back 2.2 seconds back to Tony Wells, who started in the number 79 Nielsen Racing Ligier on the front rows. Only lost a couple of spots, still very much involved in that lead battle. Heading down towards the Parabolica here, trying to recover a few places. Then is the M Racing YMR entry of Nathan Biel, and Biel slots by
the
55 car. Yes.
So all of a sudden, two of those LMP3 cars managed to get by EP Motors Lamborghini. Now, next target is going to be Flick Haig in the Optimum Audi, and the YMR car now under a little bit more pressure from the Spirit of Race 55.
And we've very nearly had 15 minutes of this 2-hour race already. So far, not too much incident at the head of the order. Unfortunately, Keo Racing no longer running, nor the Ram Racing car. So we're down to 18 machines now. The 22 is out there, isn't it? Yes, Jim Guire just breaking one of the timing loops now, but circulating off the lead lap, sadly, for United Autosports.
I think I'm right. That car was only released after the field had passed after a full lap, and that is correct, I believe. So it would lose a running lap.
So actually, presumably the fuel issue, the fuel leak had been solved, but the car couldn't join the race
from pit lane.
From pit lane at the back, as they all left the line from the rolling start. It had to be one complete lap. Correct. And then join the back of that train. Okay, so up against it are the guys in the number 22 machine.
Meanwhile, lead of the race and the Norma putting in quick times, as are the two cars behind. And all of a sudden, Alex Capadia, having tasted a bit of dust from the car ahead, is now getting his head down. He put in the fastest lap of the race last time around and is now looking as if he's ready to find an opportunity to do what he can about maybe claiming a second place. Up from 7th on the grid, Alex. So it's been a good run to the front here from him.
Certainly has. There's also some good progress now being made by Nathan Biel after a moment down at the second chicane on the opening lap. Biel having his own moment there at Variante della Roggia, the left and right chicane, as opposed to the right and left, which is very close to the start of the lap.
Yeah, it's another fastest lap of the race for Capadia. He's now, 0.6 of a second back from the number 99, but this is allowing the Norma to just get a little bit of distance between themselves and the two chasing Ligiers. Remember, there's a big wiggle for both the Ligiers, but it's got Capadia alongside. That was a cracking overtake. Alex Capadia saw that the number 99 car had made a minor error, went for the inside. It's on the very edge of adhesion for his Ligier, but managed to make the pass, and he's through up into second place.
Lovely move from Alex Capadia on double duty this weekend, and there's also some slightly better news for Alvaro Fontes, who is back in the race. The 44 SPV motorsport car was shown as stopped on the track for a little while at Variante Ascari after that spin and contact with the 55, but that car's rejoined the race now with hopefully no ill effects, and has remained on the lead lap, but is something like a minute down on Jean Glorieux, who is heading towards the Parabolica with Jordan Poroy and Alex Capadia in hot pursuit here. Capadia fresh from the fastest lap of the race. 1.7 seconds is the difference between Capadia and the race leader.
Say, by the way, the Lamborghini has managed to get back by the number 55 Ligier, so it's found some strong performance somewhere around the last circuit.
So that's Busnelli getting by Sidanovic in the number 55 Spirit of Race Ligier. Very similar cubic capacity for those engines, a V10 versus a V8, of course. So Lamborghini running with the V10 alignment.
Actually, he's repassed both of those Ligiers, hasn't he? So that maybe in their little battle, they've had a bit of a stumble, and the Lamborghini has made it back past both the Emirates YMR car and number 55 car, and those cars in reverse positions as well.
Yeah, Biel losing a spot to Sidanovic, so some nice jostling of the order, some movement of the order mid-pack, and Flick Haig and Busnelli going through now with their best laps of the race respectively. Haig leading GT3 from the 46 of Busnelli. Third in class is Lee Moll at the wheel of the number 7 Mercedes AMG. That's the LMM entered AMG. and then Cedric Mezar and, well, Raymond Vos, sadly no longer a runner. So we're down to 4 GT3 cars. They run 8th, 9th, 14th and 15th in the overall standings.
Yeah, lovely lingering shot of the, I think, absolutely gorgeous Gulf Marine liveried 23 car from United Autosport. Sean Lynn at the wheel of that car. Sean's interest in LMP3, a very interesting one. He took part in an LMP3 race the first time at the end of the summer last year, a demonstration race in the UK, and told me, actually, he's doing this with his good friend Richard Means. Sean owns a number of very nice historic racing cars, including a couple of Group C cars. This gives him an opportunity to train with a high downforce prototype.
Yeah.
Without the risk of, how can we put this, an incident with a multi-million pounds worth of Group C car. It's a very clever move. 206,000 euros, the all-in package for one of these Ligiers or Normas, or for that matter, the other chassis that are available from Ginetta and from Ades and from Alve Riley in the United States.
Alex Capaldi is now going up to second place, by the way. Not seeing that on the screen, but he has moved into second. Oh, we did see it, beg your pardon.
But what he is doing is closing down the leader. It's down from 1.6 to 1.4 last time, now 1.3, and just edging a tenth or two out as we look at the other battle in GT3. Limo managing to get past Mezard in this, I think, lovely-looking orange Lamborghini from SVC. And now they're almost nose to tail again.
An hour and 40 to go. This is the opening round then of the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup, as this fighting for, well, it might well be 8th and 9th in LMP3, but it's still fascinating stuff to watch. Nathanael Biel, who is trying to get by Claudio Sedanovic, already done it once, but Sedanovic wasn't happy with that, didn't take it lying down, and the Spirited race car has got ahead again of the Ivan Muller Racing machine. Down to the second chicane they go. They're pursuing the Emanuele Busnelli started Lamborghini Huracan as well, with Fabio Babini waiting in the wings to take that EB Motors Lambo over. This might as well be for the lead of the race. It's that hardly fought. And they are 8th and 9th, they've gone there 10th and 11th, respectively, in the overall standing order. And that's the dice just ahead of them for the lead in GT3, with Flick Haig holding her own up against Emanuele Busnelli. Joe Osborne at Optimum Racing will take the Audi R8 over at roughly half distance.
And Fabio Babini due next aboard in the EP Motors car. Fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, for Jean Gloria, 1:47.5. That's better than Alex Capaldi managed last time around. 1.8 seconds the gap now. That top three beginning to get away from Tony Wells. Tony Wells beginning to get away from the chasing pack behind.
Now
around the outside.
Great
yes.
move into the parabolica there, and that was from Nata Biel.
And up the inside. Oh wow, great double move.
Yes, trying to pick off the Lamborghini Huracan, but then the 5.2 litre Lambo suddenly comes into its own.
Yeah, lots of ponies underneath the bonnets at the rear of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3, and more than the Ligier can actually muster at that point. But up the inside now comes the 55. Have to say, Johnny Palmer, this mix between the LMP3s and the GT3s is really working at the moment.
Yeah,
it's making it tough for these guys. But what they're learning here is how you have to deal with traffic that laps at a reasonably similar pace, where you've got strengths and weaknesses at different parts of the circuit. You saw there beautifully the Lamborghini looked like easy meat through the parabolica, gets to a straight line, and no, it's not going to be that simple. Sorry, boys.
And the two P3s in the Lambo's wake just can't quite get close enough into the run for the second chicane, and they will presumably get slightly better downforce. They will get better downforce into the two Lesmos, so that might mean that they can claw a bit closer to the Lamborghini Huracan. Meanwhile, this is the fight for third and fourth in GT3. Limo up against Cedric Mezar. And Mezar and Stevie S joined forces last year, raced that was a Ferrari, wasn't it, in 2016?
It was indeed, yes.
So moving to another mid-engined car, the Lamborghini Huracan, normally aspirated 5.2 V10 engine.
And Limo will be replaced at the wheel of his Mercedes-AMG GT3 by none other than Phil Keane. And Phil, another very quick young racing driver. Here comes, this is Jim Maguire. This is the battle, it says for 13th position, but I think Jim Maguire is a lap down on this car.
Yes. So I suppose it kind of is for 13th position, but the problem is Jim Maguire's got to get past it and then get past it again.
Yes, indeed. So it's Nico Pronk in his number 48. Cox Racing entered Ligier ahead of Jim Maguire. And it'll be frustrating with Jim because this shows the potential pace of the car, of course. This aero paint goes up the inside of Pronk and will try to pull away there. And we'll see Matt Bell aboard that car after the compulsory pit stops.
Well, that'll be a useful yardstick for United Autosports, just to, as you say, to know where they might have been in the race had that fuel leak not struck, and had the fact that they had to start the race a full lap down effectively, as Nathan Biel continues the attack, this time on Emanuele Busnelli. The problem is he's going to have the outside line up to the second chicane, and Busnelli can defend that very easily because the Lamborghini has great straight line speed.
And behind, Zdanovic had a bit of a moment there on the braking, the tail wagging a little on the Spirit of Race 55 Ligier, but that ends without any further drama. Looking a little desperate to get by here. Tries the inside. Is that going to work? I think it is. He does it under a little bit of braking there. And Zdanovic will now desperately try to get by. Wants to keep in that fight. Does it? Does it well.
Yep, so through the Lesmos, the P3's obviously far more efficient through the air than that big, heavy GT car, but the Lamborghini can certainly live with the P3 pace down the straight and heading through the slight left-hand kink at Curva del Seraglio, and that is the run then down towards the Variante Ascari, which is exactly what Lee Moll and Cedric Mezar are doing, third and fourth in the GT3 part of the race.
And yeah, hugely powerful GT3 cars. Yes, there's balance of performance been brought in, which can reel that power in. But compared to the 420 brake horsepower of the LMP3 cars, a lot more power available.
Just 0.6 of a second between the two. And we're closing in on almost half an hour done then of this 2-hour event. The bronze driver didn't have to start, although for the main part we have seen bronze pilots at the wheel for the opening stint, and that leaves the silver stroke gold drivers, your gun driver, to be in at the end, just in case there might be a late safety car and that will bench up the field. It's better to have your pro driver, your more experienced driver, your quicker driver at the wheel as the race goes into its dying stages. We hope we won't see cars knocking chunks out of each other in order to take the first victory of the year, but there's always a possibility of that, and this is a slightly more refined environment for the bronze driver to ply their trade and just learn about the cars that they're going to be very familiar with by the end of this season.
Yes, Moll doing a good job of fending off the chasing Lamborghini, and the week started badly for this squad with not inconsiderable, albeit brief, pit lane fire. The problem with the fuel system aboard the car, allowing a fuel leak, and when Phil Keane brought the car to a stand, so that fuel managed to find its way into hot exhaust, and woof. No, not a dog. It was a flash fire, but the team dealt with it very well, very quickly, restricted the damage. So it's been a busy start to the race meeting for the Lee Moll Racing team. They did lose some track time because of that.
Yeah.
But Lee clearly enjoying this little battle. He'd much prefer to be in the lead battle, but this will do for now.
And it's a busy year for Lee Moll, doing a full season of British GT as well with Ryan Ratcliffe, I think in this very car. It certainly looks very similar anyway, the AMDtuning.com entry. And it's a lot of the AMD team looking after this car under the banner of Lee Moll Motorsport. So into the Parabolica these cars go for the 14th time. Meanwhile, the GT3 leader is clearly now Flick Haig. She's managed to get 2 LMP3 cars between the Audi and the Lamborghini of Busnelli. So GT3 cars are 9th and 12th in the overall standings, and these 2 cars are 14th and 15th. As the Lamborghini has a little bit of a look on Lee Moll, not quite fully alongside, and decides discretion the better part of valour there. Plenty of this race still to go. Don't want to do anything stupid, but Cedric Mezar just making his intentions felt for Lee Moll. Yeah,
keeping him honest, I think it's fair to say there. Meanwhile, ahead of these cars, you're quite right, Flick Haig, 9th position overall, and a great run from Flick in this car. Jean Glorieux, though, is holding a good advantage here. Bronze driver, let's not forget, Jean Glorieux. Holding 1.7 second lead over Alex Capadia.
Nathan Biel has finally got ahead of both the GT3 cars and Sedanovic as well. So Biel may be focusing on the road in front rather than that behind. And Biel really should be a bit higher up than his position warrants right now, or would suggest. The car qualified in 6th position, and Biel's now got the car up to 8th, tucked in behind Eric Didonka, as right behind Busnelli there, Sean Lynn in the number 23, and that was Sean, I think, getting by or lining up anyway. Busnelli's car might have been
there's contact there, I think, from with one of the LMP3 cars running to the inside. Just caught the end of that incident off the track to the inside of Flick Haig through the parabolica. Was on the grass. Now, whether or not there was contact or there was just a miscalculation from the 55 car, but it looked to me to be the 55 off to the inside briefly.
So looking for Sedanovic and where that car comes through in the order as to whether it's been delayed or not. But yes, that was the car immediately in front. Let's have a look again.
It's not the same incident.
Okay, so this is cars coming out of the second chicane, taking plenty of curb, and the race leader dealing with traffic, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
That looked like Sedanovic.
Maybe. Sedanovic has... No, still waiting for that car to trigger the next timing loop. We can tell you whether that car has lost time on Flick Haig. Jerry Kraut, the number 9 car it was, right behind Busnelli, by the way, and Kraut got through in that number 9 Duquesne Engineering car to make it another P3 in 11th position. There's still no change in the order with these two, but they threaten to change at any moment. Lee Moll versus Cedric Mezar. Mezar squirming and sliding as he applies the power coming out of the second chicane at Rogia, and then down to Curve di Lesmo, the two right-hand corners that follow. One follows the other very swiftly indeed. Iconic throughout the world, many of these corners, particularly the Lesmos and the Parabolica at the end of the lap, which is by no means a constant radius corner, much tighter on the entry, and then it opens up as Eric Didonka goes down towards that part of the corner under massive pressure here from Nathan Biel.
He's put in a great lap last time around at 1:48 and is looking to make up some of the ground he lost, bottled up behind Busnelli earlier. And then that's a battle with Sedanovic.
Yep.
This is the battle now for 7th position. And can he do it in the braking zone for turn 1? I think he possibly can, you know. Who's with a braver? No, not there.
So Biel having to bide his time a little bit as Sean Lynn now gets ahead of Emanuele Busnelli. So the Lamborghini running the risk here of slipping a bit too far back from Flick Haig, battling away for that GT3 lead, but Flick doing a tremendous job in the Optimum Racing Audi, running 9th on the road once you factored in all the LMP3s, and now the cushion of 3 prototypes between her and Emanuele Busnelli, the surprise start driver in number 46.
And Busnelli beginning to fall into the clutches. Less than 10 seconds, the gap now back to Lee Moll. And this, I think, is going to be that incident I just caught the end of here.
It was the 55.
Now, there was never room there to do that.
So Sedanovic all over the curb, and that was...
That was entry to Parabolica.
Parabolica.
He was very, very lucky not to lose the car completely there.
Into the final corner, and yes, as I say, it's really quite tight, that right-hander on the entry. And Flick Haig, although in a GT car, is still hammering along at that sort of speed, applying the brakes, and yes, the P3 can slow more radically than the GT, but just, you know, it was a half a door open there, wasn't there? No more.
Laws of physics have to be applied here as well, I think, is the other thing. Possibly would have been a better idea around the outside there, but which we could think of, yeah, but I think very lucky to keep that car at the barrier there.
And the sort of natural thing to suggest is, why didn't he wait to the straight? Well, the problem is the Audi is just about as quick.
Well, I think the Audi is probably quicker.
Quicker down the straights, yeah. So are you expecting, therefore, overtakes through the twisty stuff? And here at Monza, there's not a great deal of twisty stuff. There's the 3 chicanes, if you include the Ascari sequence of corners. And then the rest of it, apart from the Lesmos and Parabolica, there's a lot of straights here.
Half an hour and more gone, and we've now got a 3-car battle, Johnny, for 6th position, with the number 33, the number 90 and the 53 more or less line astern now. We're keeping a weather eye too at the lead at the race, because that lead gap is coming down.
Yep, so Alex Kapadia just getting into a bit of a groove there, maybe learning where Jean Glorieux is quick and where Jean Glorieux is slow, and perhaps where Kapadia can pick Jean off, but he's got to try and find about a second first of all. As then exiting the second chicane, here is Nathan Biel on the charge and gets the place from Eric de Doncker. So the Motorsport 98 car down a spot, and the M Racing YMR entry on a bit of a charge here. Nathan Biel due to hand over to Laurent Millara, and Millara is the bronze driver. Biel should be slightly better placed than this. Qualified the car, well actually it was Millara that qualified the car earlier on today in 6th position. And clearly YMR have put Biel in the car for the opening stint to try and make ground. Sadly for them, all they've done is lost it, but he's back up to 7th position now, having pulled that move on Eric de Doncker, and is now in the slipstream of Javier Ibran. And Ibran keeping the wheel straight, just hoping that this drag race goes the way of the number 33 car, but it's a lost battle, I'm afraid, because there goes the 53 through and into the position of 6th. I was distracted there because the chocolates arrived, but I'll try and be professional and continue to be focused. An hour and 25 minutes still to go, and I think it's high time we got an update from United Autosport. So let's hand down to Charlie George.
Yeah, I'm down here with Matt Bell. Now, Matt, it was not the start to the race that you wanted, was it?
No, unfortunately we had an issue on the grid, had to pull the car off and start from pit lane, so here that means you start a lap down, unfortunately. So yeah, in terms of the race today, we'll need a fair dose of luck to get back on the lead lap, but at the moment it's just valuable track time.
Absolutely, and of course in this championship where the onus is on the amateur driver, track time is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. So this year I'm driving with Jim Maguire. He's an American guy, first time racing over in Europe, so it's his first time at Monza. It's going to be his first time at every circuit. So yeah, just getting he's new to LMP3 as well. So although competition-wise we seem to be out of it today, getting him as much seat time today is really valuable, and getting him some experience in the car.
And of course your position as the pro driver is so important in this championship, isn't it?
Well, I'm here to sort of help Jim as he goes through his learning process, and then obviously do my bit when I get in the car as well, and try and be as quick as possible and help with car setup and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, hopefully Jim's enjoying it. You'll have to ask him. And yeah, hopefully keep on bringing him on and steepening his learning curve.
Thanks very much, Matt.
Cheers, thanks.
Very kind of Charlie to ask 3 questions, because it meant I could polish off the chocolate that just arrived in the commentary booth as well. She's been briefed correctly. An hour and 23 to go, and Jean Glorieux no longer under quite as much pressure, because the gap's opened up to 1.6 seconds now. Is that because those cars are starting to encounter a bit of traffic here and there?
No, it's because Jean Glorieux has just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 1:47.203, reacting indeed, Johnny, to the pressure from Alex Kapadia. Behind, though, there has been a bit of a mix-up again. Because Eric de Doncker, I believe, managed to get his way past the 33 car. He did. So we've now got a completely different order for 6th, 7th and 8th, with Biel in the 43 YMR car up to 6th. De Doncker picks up a position to 7th, and Ibran drops 2 positions in the last 2 laps and back down now to 8th position. So we're having a bit of a sort out now as we close in on the pit stop window.
And the Mercedes and Lamborghini going to get very close again. Limol versus Cedric Mezar. Mezar maybe around the outside into the first chicane. I don't think there's much of a room there, because Limol virtually stopped the Mercedes on the first curb, so defending into the Retifilo. And does that compromise his exit? Because it wasn't the ideal line through there. Maybe looking a touch slow through the Curva Grande, but then the Mercedes comes into its own. This is balanced performance to a certain extent, because the Mercedes seems to have the legs through that fairly constant radius right-hander that goes through about 90 degrees, and then they stop hard for the second chicane. Plenty of curve through the second element of the Roger chicane there, taken by Limol, but the Mercedes can deal with that, can't it? It plants itself back down on the ground, although unsettled briefly, looks very stable now.
The body language of that chasing Lamborghini looking a little more urgent now, if you ask me, over the last few corners. And Mazard looking for a way by Limol, but Lee's had to go defensive a couple of times. He's done that very effectively. He's playing to the strengths of the AMG GT3 package against the Huracan behind. He will know these cars very well, of course, from his experience in the British GT Championship, where we see both the AMG, of course, that Lee knows very well, and the Huracan GT3s. So he'll know what he's dealing with here.
This time Kapadia slipping a bit more time, so the gap's up to 2 seconds now on lap 21 of this, the opening round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup for 2017. A series of 2-hour races for when these cars support the European Le Mans Series, and it'll be 2 separate races during Le Mans week next month. Thursday and Saturday races, each of 55 minutes duration. As I say, the rest of the rounds this year will be 2-hour affairs when we go to places like Spa, to Red Bull Ring and to Portimao to end the year. The Norma M30 with its Nissan engine, run by DKR Engineering from Luxembourg and driven by Jean Glorieux at the moment, still leading the way, and that's the gap back to Alex Kapadia. It's kind of stabilised now. 2 seconds the gap between Glorieux and Kapadia, and then about 1.5 seconds behind is Jordan Poiroy in the number 99 N-Race Ligier.
So teams from all over European motorsports having a bit of a crack at this one, looking to see whether or not they like the temperature of the water in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. The DKR Engineering team has competed, as we said earlier, in the LMS before in LMP2, and at Le Mans for that matter in LMP2, and in the GTC, the GT3 class in the European Le Mans Series. RRM Sports have another LMP3 car. We'll see tomorrow racing in the European Le Mans Series with Alex Kapadia at the wheel of that car too, as part of a 3-man crew in that team. Then N-Race coming across from the V2V Series and taking a look at their first sniff of ACO rules competition. I should imagine at the moment they're quite enjoying it. A strong 3rd position, very much in contention at this stage of the race.
Adrian Schiller, good lap there for the Frenchman, due to hand over to Emilien Carte. He's another Frenchman, and the Graf car currently in 5th place. Meanwhile,
I think we just saw Busnelli being taken by the other 2 cars. I think Busnelli has lost 2 positions.
OK, so Lee Mole and Cedric Mezard may be getting ahead of Busnelli, who are still waiting at the end of this lap. And Mole goes through, Mezard goes through, and Busnelli pits. Now, is that car down on one side?
I've got a feeling that car has a problem.
I think a puncture, potentially. The tyres are ready. They're stopping the car already. And the front left is being changed. And the wheel gun in action now. Are they changing any more tyres? I don't think they are.
Just the front left.
Front left, maybe. It didn't look flat as it came in. I thought it was possibly a right side puncture, but maybe a slow puncture or a right vibration. Flat spotted tyre perhaps for Emanuele Busnelli, but as you say, he's lost 2 spots to Lee Mole in the 7 car and Cedric Mezard in the 8, who are still trading tenths of seconds, separated by very little time indeed, as Emanuele Busnelli rejoins the race, but way down.
It's a real shame for the EB Motors squad on the lead, of course. No, sorry, did they? But the lead taken by Flick Haig into turn 1.
Yeah.
And maintained it through turn 2. A great move from Flick, and then has been pulling away ever since. And whatever that problem was, unlikely a slow puncture, I'd have thought, for the 46 car. It's dropped Emanuele Busnelli into the clutches of this pair, who are now some considerable way up the road.
So that's what happens when you just keep things neat and tidy and maybe allow the race to come to you. LMM up to 2nd position, and this is crucial now for Lee Mole to have stayed ahead of Cedric Mezard throughout this stint, and he's now actually building a bit of a tidy gap because Mezard possibly more concerned about that car behind, which is the 44.
That's a recovering car. The car we saw the spin earlier in the race.
Yeah, so Fontes in the bright yellow SPV Motorsport car, slotting past. Upper position in the overall standings, but of course not within the class.
Yep, SPV goes past SVC. And Fontes looking to get claw back some of the time, considerable chunk of time he lost with that spin earlier. And will be by Flick Haig, sorry, will be by Lee Mole as quickly as he possibly can. But so far, faultless run from Flick Haig.
Yeah, with about a 15-second advantage now over Lee Mole, running a touch wide there out of the first Lesmo, clipping the curb a bit and kicking up some gravel, but no major issues. That was actually out of the second chicane, beg your pardon. Now out of the second Lesmo with the Decane Engineering car just a bit further up the road of Jerry Kraut.
And Sean Lynn actually not that far back now from Flick and putting in pretty good lap times. Broadly similar lap times at the moment from Flick as the second drivers begin to suit up. Fontes looks for a way by Lee Mole, and here comes the leader behind the third placed GT3 car. So the lead battle is now dealing with traffic, which is, what, 15th overall, with an hour and 15 minutes left, and and that's going to hold him up just a little. Is this going to help Alex Capardia here? Still not done it.
Trying to get by the bright orange Lamborghini Huracan SVC Sport Management, still not by, and here is Capardia's chance, surely. Capardia within half a car length, and Capardia is not going to be asked twice here, leaving the Parabolica through the second portion of that long, lingering right-hander. Capardia couldn't quite get his car up alongside, but the leaders are absolutely nose to tail now, so from 2 seconds down to 0.1 of a second, and this is what traffic can do to you. Sometimes it gives, sometimes it takes away, and this is very important for these guys to learn this sort of thing early in their endurance racing career, if you like, coming at it at various ages. But nevertheless, these learning processes have to be gone through. And Jean Glorieux having to soak up massive amounts of pressure here from Alex Capardia. Capardia didn't make the move. Maybe had a chance under braking into the chicane, but it has to be single file into that first chicane at Redifilo. And in the end, Capardia thinking better of it.
Well, it was tighten your belts and go for glory time there, wasn't it? I think Alex decided discretion a bit of part of valour for him too, and third place car held up for a little wee while. Here they come now with Lee Mole next, and Alex Capardia taking another look.
So, yeah, can he get alongside is the crucial thing. He certainly is alongside, but which way does the track go next? Through the left-hand kink at Seraglio, and then it is left again at Variante Alta. So down towards the left-hander, towards Ascari, beg your pardon, and still he can't get by because Lee Mole's Mercedes is in the way. And don't get me wrong, Lee has to be at some point on the track. He can't just evaporate. Right behind them is the third-place car as well as Jordan Perroy. So this is livening things up very nicely ahead of the only pit stop that has to be done in the race. One mandatory pit stop where you hand from one driver to another, and Capardia now under pressure from Jordan Perroy, so this is giving Glorieux loads more breathing space out front.
Traffic giveth and traffic taketh away.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Alex Capardia coming through now, trying to just get any inch he can get from Jordan Perroy. But that was a lap of some excitement, wasn't it?
Certainly so.
What I didn't see is whether or not there were blue flags there for the GT cars.
No, I have to say I was concentrating on the racing rather than what the Masters were doing.
Trouble, and that is for Nico Pronk. The 48 car was running way down the field, yellow flags. Running 17th. And that car due to be taken over by 2003 Le Mans GT1 champion Peter Cox, who runs this team. Now, didn't see where that car was, but could this be a full course yellow?
Down into the second chicane is the yellow area.
Yeah, there it is.
And a whole load of cars trying to work their way by. No overtaking for the time being. And then green flags on the exit of the Roja chicane, the second chicane on this Monza circuit. And yeah, that's going to take some recovering because it's fallen off on its own, I'm going to say.
Clunked the curb, I'm afraid. Clattered the curb, had the power in, and round he went. And once in the gravel, I'm afraid.
Yes.
No way back from there. Still traffic, by the way, for this lead trio. This time it will be Fontes, 13th position car. The SPV car with the spin earlier has recovered, but now has the three-car lead train bearing down. What will be the decision about recovery of that number 48 car?
It is a bit of a dilemma for Eduardo Freitas and his team as to what sort of caution, what type of caution we adopt to recover Nico Pronk's car.
Now there are blue flags, definitely blue flags now there for the SPV car.
which is about to go a lap down then. The number 3 car, which leads the race, coming out of the Parabolica and over the line. Long run down the main straight here at Monza. Half a second between Glorio and Capadia, and then right behind them is the 3rd place car. Capadia not wondering when to turn in, and despite that car, the yellow machine being shown blue flags.
I think he tried to give Alex room. There just wasn't room into the braking area there, but Alex saw the opportunity. There just wasn't space. I don't think that was anybody doing anything wrong. Fontes saw the flags, saw the car coming, tried to back out of that as best he could, but short of stopping, there wasn't quite room enough for Alex Capadia to get through. He's done so now safely. Double yellows with a recovery vehicle there. We are not going to go full course caution for that. And now through goes Perroy, and the 3 leading cars have managed to deal with the traffic that is the number 44 SPV Ligier. Yes, opened out the gap though for the leader.
The issue there for Alvaro Fontes was he was on the wrong side of the circuit, effectively wrong side of the track. He needed to be on the driver's left going into that first chicane, and that would have allowed Alex Capadia through very tidily indeed. They're covering the recovery of that vehicle, by the way, Nico Pronk's car, under local yellows.
Yeah, the slight problem is they've recovered the car to the racing surface, but he's still facing the wrong way in an area where you've got blind entry into that corner, so they're going to have to be very careful indeed. There he goes, and don't beach it. Just fires it through.
Just bury the right foot and hope for the best. And the car is, well, spewing all the gravel
off the circuit
on the runoff, which is a good thing to do for Nico Pronk.
He's doing the best he can there to get rid of the miniature rockery. Unfortunately, does look like a bit like a gritting truck at the moment, doesn't it?
It does. It could have done with doing maybe 2 more circles on the runoff area there, but that would have been unsafe as well, because if anybody else loses it down into the second chicane...
there's a huge amount of gravel coming out of that car.
Well, it's not all going to fall out at once, and it needs the vibration of the car just moving on the track for those stones to be released from the car. But yes, now the run from the chicane down and through both Lesmos and probably all the way down into the Ascari sequence of corners could be very treacherous indeed, with some cases rather large stones in that gravel trap.
Still more traffic here. Alex Capadia getting by Sean Lynn now in the 23 United Autosports car. There's the Gulf car second in that shot. Alex getting away, but he's lost a chunk of time through the earlier traffic, getting into what we can now call gravel zone.
And the question is, there he goes. See, that's the issue.
That's exactly it.
Capadia running wide, and I mean, it's kicking up gravel, even heading through the first of the Lesmos there. So down this long run through Curva del Serrallo, and he has now Perroy right on his tail, does Alex Capadia.
Prepared to bet that Alex Capadia tells us he'd run over a lot of gravel, and that was actually not helping the grip of the number 14 car. It's managed just to keep that second place for now at least. We're getting to part of the track where the power is going to written there. Here we go. Has Perroy got enough momentum to make this move stick as we get closer and closer still to the pit stop window?
They are separated by just a couple of car lengths then, and Capadia all of a sudden having to soak up this pressure from Frenchman Jordan Perroy behind. Racing for the French outfit N-Race. There's no danger immediately behind Perroy because Tony Wells quite a bit further down the road and about to head into the Parabolica.
It's fair to say, a number of the teams telling us yesterday they felt that the threat from the Norma here was a particularly strong one. The car looking very quick in a straight line. Of course, some wide open spaces here for the DKR Norma, and that's proven to be the case. Very quick indeed in a straight line. There will be circuits that perhaps favour the Ligiers later in the season, and let's face it, we're still 7 minutes before the second half of this race, and the beauty of these Pro-Am formats is this ain't done yet, nowhere near it, because you can have teams with strong pros and perhaps less strong amongst their peers, gentlemen drivers. This could get very topsy-turvy very quickly indeed.
Incredibly tight still for second and third in GT3, by the way. Those two cars just exiting the second chicane and heading for the Lesmos now, but there's just a second pretty much between Mole and Cedric Mezar, who's just done his best lap of the race. And the Mercedes, driven right now by Lee Mole, will be handed to Phil Keane. in recent times more used to a Lamborghini Huracan, but he'll get very quickly used to the Mercedes AMG, and Stevie S to take over the bright orange Lamborghini of Cedric Mezar.
Leader, meanwhile, has made his way past Flick Haig, so laps are now up to position 10, and Jerry Kraut is the next target and will be dispensed with, I feel, on the run past the pits on what will be their lap 29. Jean Glorio looking for the correct line to get the best slingshot through, goes to the inside on the run down to the first chicane. And will take Jerry Kraut. So 10th position car has now been lapped by the leader. Here comes Alex Capardi, and he's now got 2 cars between himself and the chasing pair. So it's been a strong couple of laps from the leader as the teams begin to muster themselves ready for compulsory pit stop.
Yeah, this might be quite well timed actually, because in a lap or two's time the race leader is about to encounter a whole load of traffic, which is just working its way through the Lesmos now. So if they can get these cars in before that traffic is reached, then Jean Glorio does not have to concern himself with trying to keep the lead, as Capardi is dealing with traffic himself, the second place car, and trying to lap, and indeed successfully lapping, the GT3 leader.
Straight on at the second chicane goes, I think that's
Nico Pronk again, isn't
Nico
it?
Pronk again.
Going off maybe on his own gravel.
Well, maybe he heard what you thought. You said earlier, maybe dropping a bit more gravel in that place. He didn't want to do the 2 circuits, but to give it a second go.
Yes, plenty of runoff there, and we don't mind gravel stones on that bit of the Monza asphalt, just as long as it's not right on the racing line. And that's a message from Alex Capardi as well, who kind of fell off at the Lesmos, but did well actually arresting that slide. Capardi still under stern pressure from Jordan Peroy, who's flashing the lights now, mainly to warn Jerry Kraut in the number 9 DK Engineering. Yes.
What you can certainly expect, by the way, is that there will not be a terribly wide, realistic pit window for these LMP3 cars. They're on this ragged edge in terms of fuel with 1 hour. That's why we've got 55-minute races at Le Mans, by the way, so no fueling required in the pit lane at Le Mans for these cars. Here comes the first of the pit stoppers.
Yeah, Ibram Javier and Claudio Sedanovic making the stops.
Flick Hagen as well
from the leader GT3, and here is the Optimum Racing Audi. So it'll be Flick out and Joe Osborne in.
There goes Joe, and he'll be delighted with that position.
Yes, he will.
There'll be a couple of encouraging words for Flick. Gets a pat on the hat.
Fuel going in at Audi, and Javier Ibran about to step out and hand over to Matthijs Bacher, the Dutchman. Also the bright orange Lamborghini of SVC Sport Management, Cedric Mezar. Good stint that. Maybe got bottled up behind Lee Moll a little bit. They're worried about that car being stopped on its marks. They've now pushed it back very slightly. Door is open, and Cedric Mezar about to unstrap himself and hand over to Stevie S.
Fuel going in.
Still not in the right position, is it, that car?
Waiting for the tyres. Optimum Motorsport.
So what is the issue here? They're pushing the car forward. They're wheeling it back again. And are they now happy that it stopped on its markers? Yes, and only now does the fuel go in. This is a massive delay.
Couldn't reach the fuel rig.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, they couldn't push the car back, whether it was stuck in gear, and they had to release the box somehow, the gearing. But a shrug of the shoulders there from Cedric Mezar, just driven the wheels off this thing for the last hour. And then this issue in the pit stop, which means that Stevie S couldn't get on board. They couldn't, as you say, stretch the hose to a sufficient length. And this might play very nicely into Lee Moll's lead in GT3, because Lee, well, if he makes it round this time, will be classified as the GT3 leader. We're waiting for the Audi, though, to rejoin, and probably Lee will pit at the end of this lap.
Might well bring, at least in some part, the EB Motors car back into play. They've obviously had that stop a little earlier in pit lane. 41 seconds with what we believe was a slow puncture at the rear of the car. But Joe Osborne is rolling.
Fabio Bobini strapping himself in to that number 46 Lamborghini Huracan, and that is about to go very swiftly indeed, as is this Audi, powered by exactly the same engine as the Lambos, both mid-engine 5.2 litre V10s. And Joe Osborne then at the wheel of the number 75, about to push.
Phil Keane was rolling down pit lane as well, so it will be the Mercedes in second position still, and with a considerable advantage over the Lamborghinis, I feel. And it is the EB Motors car that gets away first.
Yeah, right, ahead of the other Lamborghini Huracan. Lee Moll is indeed in.
My apologies, that wasn't leaving, that was arriving, wasn't it? He'd left that pit stop a little later.
Yeah, the last GT3 car to stop of the remaining cars. Sadly, we lost the Ram Racing AMG of Raymond Vos and Tom Onslow-Cole a little earlier on, and the SVG car still yet to be lowered from its jacks. Now the airline is unplugged, the car lands back on all fours and is given the go-ahead, and now Stevie S has some work to do to try and recover, well, anything he can. It's certainly a fourth place finish, almost guaranteed, as long as as the car lasts the distance, which he will have no problem doing, and making sure that Steve keeps it out of the wall.
Haven't yet seen any of the lead trio down on pit road. We are 38 seconds away from the midpoint of this race. Tony Wells is in. Now Capadia comes in from second position.
From second, yeah. But there is the race leader charging his way down towards the first chicane, so it's going to be at least one more lap for Jean Glorieux, who will now be pursued by Jordan Perroy.
So Capadia in, Tony Wells in, Biel in, Gila in, Dodonka in, and now it will be Andy Merrick out in that car. Fontes in the number 44 SPV car. And we've just seen Lee Moll actually from the lead in GT, with the earlier stop Bron Flick Haig handing over to Joe Osborne. 53 car is on the jacks with wheels rolling. That will
result in a penalty.
It will.
Yes. So when the car is jacked up on the internal jack system and the
engine has to be off,
the rear wheels start moving, as you say, that means that the 5-litre Nissan engine is in life and everything has to be turned off whilst the fuel goes in. So
we were part of the lessons learned here, but that car came in from 5th position. I agree with you. I think there's going to be a penalty coming for that.
Nathan Biel, having lost time with the spin at the second chicane on the opening lap, gained some of that back again and about to hand over to Laurent Millara. Well, Millara's first job may sadly be to come in and serve some kind of penalty. That's not by far not been confirmed yet. Purely commentator speculation, but we do read the regulations from time to time.
Absolutely. So, away goes the number 3 car. Another fastest lap of the race, a 1:47.1, and making hay whilst the track is relatively quiet, Jean Glorieux, but he's going to be coming in, I think this time. He does indeed.
So Glorieux braking so that he can adhere to the 60km/h speed limit down this Monza pit lane, and also coming in from second position on the road, Jordan Perroy. Alex Capadia is still in the pits, by the way. We haven't yet seen the 14 car rejoin with Ross Warburton at the wheel. There is the 99 car then, so there'll be Jordan Perroy out and Alain Costa to take over. Silver graded driver to hand over to a bronze as the fuel goes in down at N race. And now Warburton is back into the race, looking like the car is running 3rd or 4th. We'll check up on that in a moment or two. No, we're still waiting for 1 or 2 of the LMP3 cars to come around.
No, the 2 cars behind him are actually not pitted yet. So Jerry Crouch and Sean Lynn yet to pit. I think Ross is going to be
to lead, then won't it, from Lynn for the time being?
Certainly ahead of those 2, yes. But the other 2 will have to pit very soon. I feel at least. Yes,
because at Le Mans you can't go much further than 56 or 57 minutes.
It's around the hour. It's around the hour for these cars. You can't get very much further than that, and they've already gone 1 hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah. A little bit dependent on how much right foot you use.
Correct.
Clearly an awful lot at Le Mans, with something like 80% full throttle around that place, and it may not be far off here at Monza as well.
Indeed. But remember, these have not been 2 of the leading cars, therefore maybe a little less pace, a little less fuel used.
So tyre change taking place down at N race as well. Rear right going on, and they're just prepping a rear left as well. Alex Capadia's formerly driven car, now at the in command is Ross Warburton, and he is just exiting the Variante Ascari.
Peter Cox now aboard that 48 car we saw in trouble at the second chicane in the hands of Nico Pronk, and got on the timing and scoring. I'm a little worried this because we had some problems earlier this week with this car. The 22 car was in trouble at the start of the race, shown as stationary. Was shown a moment ago as in the pit lane, which in Maguire, but that car has had a timing transponder issue all week. So wouldn't suggest at the moment that it's definite that that car is in the trouble it appears from timing and scoring. That is a change of position, I think, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's the number 99 car going by...
98 car.
98 car, rather. That's Andy Merrick going by Ross Warburton.
Yeah. And Merrick is not on the same lap as Warburton. Merrick completing lap 32 as they came across the line. Warburton lap 33. And we have seen a pit stop, haven't we? Obviously we have, because Merrick's taken over from Eric de Donker as the former race leader for DKR Engineering. The car rejoins the race, and we see the first track action in the race, at least, for Alex Terrell, who is slithering and sliding his way out of the first chicane.
Long pit stops, though, for both the number 3 and the 99. And the 99 has exited ahead of the previous leader, but both of them have lost a chunk of time in the pit stop.
And the number 23 is still being serviced at United Autosports.
Sean Lynn stepping out, Richard Means stepping in. There's going to be a shake-up here as this kind of shakes out over the next 3, 4, 5 minutes. You're going to see some big changes in the order here, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, bear in mind the top 3 were the DKR Engineering car, the Norma, the RLR M Sport machine that was driven by Alex Capardi and now driven by Ross Warburton, and then the number 99 car. There's the order as we stand, but that's a bit misrepresentative because we're still waiting for things to shake out a little bit since the pit stops. For example, the number 9 Duquesne Engineering car hasn't yet stopped. Sean Lynn only stopping now and being shown on that graphic as 5th place. So those two are expected to drop down the order, and Jerry Kraut is out front right now in car number 9 for Duquesne Engineering. That car, as I say, owes us a pit stop.
Has gone through and must be on the ragged edge of fuel now. It really must. So. I don't think I've seen a P3 car go this long.
And we're going to have an opportunity to look back on what this race has delivered for us in a moment or two. But Jerry Kraut got to be in at the end of this lap, we must think. So highlights of the first hour as Gerard Neveu and Pierre Fillon enjoyed the sunshine down on the main straight here at Monza as the 20 cars lined up. We had an issue for the 22 early doors with a fuel leak. That car had to be started from the pit lane, and indeed from the pit lane a lap down. But it was a good getaway for Jean Glorieux, who managed to edge away the car that it started alongside Tony Wells. And Tony is still in the race, running, well, 4th before the stops, and we'll see where the Nielsen Racing car has rejoined. Now a chance for us just to look back at the start here, Graham, and more crucially the run for these cars perhaps down into the second chicane. So there was a spin for the YMR car. Then what happened with the Ram Racing Mercedes? Possibly contact there.
He was hit by
the car he then hit again.
He did. So it was the other way around. The 43 car hit the Mercedes-Benz.
Caused the puncture. That caused the Mercedes to spin further round the second chicane.
Who then clipped him again.
Yes,
so
almost to get him back.
Double impact, but it has to be said, I'm afraid, Raymond Vos completely innocent there.
Yeah, and it was Mori Yoshiharu who was arguably the guilty party, running into the back of the Mercedes. Mori getting much better run through the chicane than Raymond Vos, and then Vos realising, well, probably far too late to arrest that moment, that he'd got a rear left puncture. The car swapped ends and actually, ironically enough, cleaned out Mori Yoshiharu at the same time. We haven't seen Yoshiharu since because of the damage to the number 43 Kia racing car. A moment as well for number 44 SPV Motorsport machine after contact at the Variante Ascari. That car spinning but rejoining the race. And then a beautiful dice between Alex Capardia and Jordan Poroy for 2nd and 3rd. Also, a fascinating fight between Lee Moll and Cedric Mezar, the two non-pro drivers, if you like. Lee Moll bringing a lot of the cash to Lee Moll Motorsport, as the name would suggest, but nevertheless they are mean racers. And Lee Moll sticking his elbows out throughout the full hour, and Cedric Mezar could not get by. And as it turned out, the orange Lamborghini Huracan of SVC Sport Management losing a bag-load of time in the pits because they couldn't get the car out of gear, and therefore they couldn't get the fuel hose to reach where the car had come to a halt. Race leader rejoining, and this is back to live action with Jerry Crouch finally making a pit stop. Now, has the car run out of fuel? Suggests not, actually, because the fuel's going in, and Jerry Crouch will have got out of that car, and it will be Jerry to hand over to Joel Janko, two American drivers.
This will be the new leader, not that car. The car that's just ahead of it has just taken that position because Colin Noble has gone past Ross Warburton, who was the lead car of the stoppers, the earlier stoppers. That courtesy of longer stops, as we said, Johnny, for the previous two leading cars. So at the moment, it's going to be, as they cross the line, it's going to be Colin Noble in the 79 Nielsen car to lead the race from Ross Warburton, with Tyrrell in the number 3 car, then the 99 of Costa. So Tyrrell has gone by the 99. 99 left the pits ahead of that car and has been retaken by the Norma.
As the number 9 Duquesne Engineering car will rejoin the race now with Joel Janko at the wheel, the last of the whole of the field to pit. And that means then that the 79, it was 4th before the stops, has worked its way to the lead of the race, courtesy of a great first bit of a stint for Colin Noble then in the number 79. Ross Warburton slips to 2nd. That car was 2nd prior to the stops. This was the moment then that Noble got by Warburton round the outside of the Curva Grande, and then as they worked their way towards the 2nd chicane, on the brakes as late as he dares was Colin Noble, the silver rated driver, and number 79 from Nielsen Racing into the race lead. And gauntlet thrown down a little bit here to Noble as to how much of a gap he can make on Ross Warburton. Alex Tyrrell in the 3rd place number 3 car, starting to chase down Warburton for that 2nd place spot.
Pretty certain there's a 2 minutes bogey time in the pit stop, so you've got to do a pit stop at least 2 minutes. So you're looking at who's gained and lost, if you like, there. The one I'm looking at is far further down the order. It's the 46 Lamborghini, Fabio Babini, who was only in the pits for 1 minute and 54 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, so yes, a minimum pit stop time to be adhered to, and plenty of them going way longer than the 2 minutes. Now here is that the Graf car that's about to be overtaken?
65, and that is Maurizio Mediani going by and taking the position. That is the battle for 5th position.
Yeah, so now going the way of Mediani, getting by Emilien Cart in the Graf Racing machine.
So as we said a little earlier, some of the teams that lost a bit of ground by dint of having their bronze drivers in first, now beginning to see that wind out as the pro drivers getting aboard some of those cars get their head down. Maurizio Mediani, one of them, experienced man in prototypes.
Also, Andy Merrick starting to charge his way up the order. He's now in 9th position for Motorsport 98. One of only a small amount of gold-graded drivers in this category for the full season. And Merritt up to 9th, starting to hunt down Matthijs Bakker and lapping way quicker than, well, everybody ahead of him, with the exception possibly of Colin Noble. No, he's even quicker than Colin, actually. Problem is he's got a significant chunk of time to try and hunt down Colin, and 48 minutes in order to do it.
Pretty certain Merrick is the man with the most varied prototype experience in this field. Everything from Aston Martin LMP1 through to, of course, a factory driver for Delta Wing. And now this is Andy's first LMP3 race, so he'll be taking his time to actually find his ultimate pace.
Yeah, now we're going to get a quick word with the driver fresh from the number 75 Audi at Optimum Racing. A great stint to bring that car into the pits from the lead. It's Flick Haig with Charlie.
Yeah, I'm down here with Flick right now. That was an incredible opening stint and first stint of the season for you. How did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. It was nice to just keep it clean and get the start out of the way, and then it was good to just get my head down and carry on. So it was good.
Now, this is your first race here at Monza, isn't it? Of course, you were here, though, for the test. How much do you think that helped, having a bit of knowledge of the circuit first?
I really like it. It's a fast circuit and there's lots going on, and actually the LMP3 cars do their own thing, so the circuit lends itself, I think, to lots of different types of cars. There's plenty of paces to get past, so.
And now it's all up to Joe to bring it home.
I know. Good luck, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Joe knows his Audi R8s as well as GT4 that he's racing in British GT this year, and the McLaren, and another man that's been at the wheel of lots of different machinery. You can't peer through that all black visor. Very shiny, isn't it? But the man very concentrated on the braking point into that right-left chicane, taking a little bit of curb and not too much in order to unsettle the car, Graham.
Driver of high quality, Joe Osborne, will be relishing leading this race, as we've got a big battle between 4 LMP3s. I think a mix-up between a couple of different laps there. It's Matt Bell aboard the number 22 car, still showing as having Jim Maguire at the wheel of that car, but I'm pretty certain it has pitted.
Not shown as being coming down pit road,
yeah,
unless it's a transponder glitch.
I think it probably is. I saw it had a P against the car a little while ago, so I'm pretty certain what, if nothing else, the pace of that car is Matt Bell's sort of pace.
Yes. Well, that may well be the evidence we need to suggest that it is the silver rated Matt Bell at the wheel rather than Jim, and possibly a slight glitch on the timing system that's telling us that the car hasn't pitted. These 3 cars, though, are on the same lap, I think. That's
Andy Merrick at the lead of that group in the number 98 car. He's already gone by the number 33, so he's up into 8th position, and it is close now to 7th, just a little way back. This is behind these 2. That is Matt Bell looking for a way by the number 33 car to get back onto that lap. So charging back after losing that lap at the start of the race to the fuel leak they had on the grid. But the significant move ahead is that car there. That's the 98 car of Andy Merrick, already into 8th position. He has got the number 53 car in his sights, just ahead of that Lamborghini, and is closing for 7th position. After that, it starts to get a little tougher, with about 20 seconds the gap to the next target.
Yeah, but easily Merrick lapping quicker than anybody else in the race right now, although Colin Noble, some respectable times from Colin, down in the low 148, and actually Maurizio Mediani doing some good times as well. That car's just done its fastest lap of the race, so that's the 55 Spirit of Race car, with Maurizio Mediani having taken over from Claudio Sedanovic.
And confirmed for Martin Pass at United Autosports that it is indeed a transponder issue on the number 22, thank you, and that will be Matt Bell. Matt's looking to get on terms with Andy Merrick to unlap himself from Andy, but Andy meanwhile is not worried about that. He's looking at that blue and white Ligier ahead. That is the next target. That is the 7th position car. So this is going to get nice and mixed up nice and quickly. Colin Noble, by the way, meanwhile, is pulling away reasonably rapidly in the lead. Ross Warburton has lost 2nd place now to the Norma. So it's 79 Nielsen, Ligier, Colin Noble, ahead of the number 3 DKR Norma. And he takes the position. Yeah, Merrick makes quick work of Laurent Millara there in the 53 car. So Merrick up to 7th position. And as you say, this is slightly more difficult now for Merrick. He needs to get his head down. He won't have the visual target of a car up ahead, because the 98's just heading down the main straight and trying to hunt down Emilien Carte in the 65 car, who is just heading out of Curva Grande now and down towards the 2nd chicane. So about the distance between the 2 chicanes for Andy Merrick to try and find next. It's going to be interesting here. We've got Matt Bell looking for a way by the 53 car as well to unlap himself from that car. Just wonder whether or not it might be in Andy Merrick's interest to just see whether or not he could hang on to the back of Matt Bell, who knows this car very well indeed. They need to make some ground up on the cars ahead. And I think they're going to need some help to do that. All the cars ahead, with the exception of Ross Warburton and Antonio Costa, are lapping more quickly at the moment than the chasing Ligiers. So Noble from Terrell from Warburton at the moment.
Other thing we need to keep our eyes peeled for is Phil Keane on a bit of a charge in the Mercedes AMG of Lee Moll Motorsport. The gap's 22 seconds. So a fairly decent buffer, but in this phase in the race, Keane is significantly quicker than Osborne. And that might be down to how the cars are set up for the relevant drivers. Flick Haig will, for the main part, have the Audi set up for her, and then Joe Osborne can adapt to that. And likewise, really, Phil Keane driving to the specification that Lee Moll has stipulated. But Keane motoring on here and certainly lapping, what's that, nearly a second faster, nearly a second faster than Osborne last time around. 42 minutes to go. This is building to a tidy crescendo for the first race of the year in the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup. No longer Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, of course, because we've added into the mix, 15 LMP3 machines, and a whole load more expected for the double header, which will be during Le Mans week on Thursday and Saturday.
45 cars on that grid, and a goodly number in both classes, GT3 and LMP3. Lots of variety. Cars from around the world. A couple of the teams in the LMP3 stakes joining from the Asia Le Mans series, which is great to see. That brings us a Ginetta to the party. We've also got an Ades in for the Le Mans Road to Le Mans race. But watching here, and Colin Noble is being caught. Is being caught by the Norma behind now. Took a second out of the Nielsen car last time around. That might be traffic. There is the 79. So Colin, who by the way is looking for a third consecutive LMP3 race win, as are Nielsen Motorsport, having taken both the opening rounds of the UK LMP3 Cup with this car, beating a high-quality team, 10-car grid, by the way, including 2 cars from United Autosports, Tocqueville Motorsports, the reigning Asia Le Mans Series champions, with none other than Richard Dean aboard on those cars, and others. Karen Chandok was in amongst that grid too. But this car, Colin Noble, plus Alistair McKay, who isn't here for this race, already on a hat-trick, let's face it, of LMP3 races. That will be some headline for them.
Maurizio Mediani and Emilian Cart still setting personal best times. Mediani significantly quicker than Cart behind in the 65, and someone else to watch out for is Fabio Babini in the number 46 Lamborghini, because down in the, well, last time I checked it was a flat 150 second lap, 1 minute 50, now back up in the 150.6s, possibly encountering, well, certainly some LMP3 traffic, because he's just passed Joel Janko and is now getting close to Richard Means as well in the number 23 Ligier. So very shortly we'll have 3 GT3 cars together on the screen, but quite a significant chunk of time between Osborne and Keane still.
Yeah, 33 seconds between the top 3 GT3 cars, and there is ebb and flow in those gaps. We'll keep an eye on that one as it develops in the last 40 minutes of this race. Colin Noble clearly heard commentary, because he's just put in the fastest lap of the number 79's race and has opened that gap up again to 6.5 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Stevie S just exiting the second chicane, by the way, and pursuing the number 33 car, but they're on different laps. Matthijs Bakker is just ahead of Joe Osborne and actually lapping quicker than that GT3 car. So Bakker trying to close in on Laurent Milara, which is the blue car, isn't it, just ahead, the number 53 M Racing car, just a bit further up the road there.
With the leader closing in on that battle to put a lap on them. Also keeping an eye on Ross Warburton, who's about, I'm afraid, to be swallowed up by Antonio Costa in the number 99 car for the final podium position in LMP3 and overall. The gap between the two just around a second and a half as they crossed the line last time, but the 99 car much the quicker at the moment. So the car at the back of that shot behind the orange Lamborghini is the leading car for the race.
And how's Andy Merrick doing? About to cross the line at the end of lap 42. Does so now. 16 seconds to find on Emilien Cart in the 65 car then. So that gap is really coming down.
He's going to be enjoying this chase. That gap is over 20 seconds just a couple of laps ago. He's finding time, he's finding speed in that car. Now the fastest lap again of the race for his number 98 car, shared with Eric Dodonka. I thought put in a very good stint in that car.
There is Alain Costa and the car of Ross Warburton. Now, we had this in the first phase of the race, remember. It was Alex Capadia and Peroy at the wheels that time around. And can the 99 finally get ahead of the 14? Yes, it can. It's going to be followed through by Phil Keane. The gap was made by the 99, and Phil Keane in the Mercedes slots through as well.
Well done, Ross Warburton. He's making no bones about the fact this is a learning curve for him. Held off that approach from a faster man at that stage, clearly a faster car at that point, for quite some little time. It'll be a little down about being off the podium positions at the moment, but this is a big improvement from Ross Warburton this week over the performances we saw from him in the LMS last year. Alex Capadia's job here, not just to be the faster wheelman, but to help his gentleman driver through that learning curve, and big progress here.
And the other thing that Ross was able to do there was recognise there were two cars trying to get through. It's very easy to be distracted by the front one and not realise that there was a car also in pursuit, particularly if it was another low-slung LMP3 car. Here comes Phil Keane late on the brakes. There's the gap there, but actually the aerodynamic advantage of the LMP3, driven by Alain Costa, means that through the second chicane, the P3 stays in front.
And just goes to show how just well balanced these cars are. A very good GT driver, Phil Keane, there, looking for a way by the third position overall. Not for position, remember, but the third position overall LMP3 car.
Fabio Babini's now got by Richard Means, by the way, in the number 23 United Autosports car. Babini at the wheel of the EB Motors Lamborghini Huracan. So there's now only 10 seconds between Babini and Phil Keane. That's another reason why Phil Keane's desperate to get by these P3 cars.
100%.
He can feel Babini coming, breathing down his neck.
Yeah, exactly the point I was about to make. That is it. That explains exactly why Phil Keane is something other than silky smooth at the moment. He is looking for track position. He wants to put cars between him and the charging Fabio Babini.
Trying to force the issue a little bit, but thankfully contact avoided for Phil Keane, massively experienced in GT3 machinery. Running a touch deep there through the first element of the second chicane was Laurent Millara, and that car's going to be picked off then on the exit of that corner. Was that Bakker going through?
No, that was the leader.
That's the race leader, in fact.
That's Colin Noble. He's another man that knows he's got to get a wiggle on because he's been caught by the Norma with that traffic. The gap now under 5 seconds, and we're going to see the Norma. There it is. It's just got those three cars between it. That is the lead gap. Obviously not just in pure time terms. He's got to deal with the three cars that Colin Noble's already had to contend with. But the fifth car in the train is the second place car overall to the race leader. Yeah. So Colin Noble's done a pretty good job of getting through some tricky traffic. You know, we've seen very clearly a well-driven LMP3 car and a well-driven GT3 car. There's not much between them.
No, absolutely not. And the great thing about it is that they find their pace in different parts of the circuit. The GT3s look tremendous down the long straights here at Monza, and then the LMP3 cars come into their own through the twisty stop. Babini's just stuck in his best lap of the race, the car's best lap of the race, the EB Motors Lamborghini, 1:49.8, which is tremendous time and way quicker than Phil Keane. The gap's down to 8 seconds now.
Yeah, he can sniff a result here, can't he, Fabio Babini? You do not show an Italian driver, an Italian car, any sense that he might take a position here at Monza, because magical things are going to happen. That's what's going on right now. 31 seconds now, the gap first to third in the GT3 class, but most of that is because Babini is catching both of them.
34 minutes, just less than, to go in this, the opening race of the year of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and it is shaping up very nicely indeed. We've got the car second on the road, lapping quicker than the race leader, and the gap is down to 4.4 seconds. And also a fight developing nicely for second place in GT3 with Fabio Babini at his home meeting in this championship, hunting down the British driver Phil Keane.
Don't count out either the challenge from the fifth place car here, Maurizio Mediani, lapping way quicker than the two cars ahead of him and as quick as the leading pair. He is 66 seconds back from the leader, but only 12 seconds back from Ross Warburton, only 16 seconds back from third position. So a podium position is in sight here for Mediani if he can maintain this rate of closing.
Stevie S, I think, not looking at anything better than fourth position right now in the orange SPV Motorsport Lamborghini, sorry, SVC Sport Management at Lambo rather, and that car lost a lot of time during the pit stop where they couldn't get the car to exactly the right place and the fuel hose wouldn't reach, so might have cost them a podium, although there's still plenty more for this GT3 race to unravel yet, and with cars getting closer and closer, and that is not quite the gap between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini
Where
Huracan.
is the Lamborghini?
Where is it?
There it is.
It is popping underneath the bridge. So Babini getting closer and closer. He can't quite see it on that bit of the track, but I'm sure once they get to the long main straight here at Monza, he'll be able to see the red Mercedes in the distance, and you can see it there as well, just the other side of that P3 car. In the background is Ross Warburton, still running fourth after a good opening stint from Alex Capadia, and Ross is keeping things neat and tidy here 4 seconds adrift of Alain Costa, who is third.
Job one for any aspirant race driver, and particularly these little prototypes, is keep it neat and tidy, keep up the grey stuff, don't make any mistakes. As that's change of position for 8th. That was change between Bakker and Melara. The 33 car going ahead of the 53. Job 2 is find the pace.
Yeah.
Job 1 at the moment for Ross Warburton is being achieved. He's not making mistakes, he's keeping to his pace, his available pace. He now needs to find a little bit more pace. That's the job for the rest of the season here.
Race leader exiting Variante Ascari down the back straight behind the paddock buildings and heading down towards the Parabolica. This will be lap 47 for Colin Noble, leading by 5.5 seconds now. Colin's best lap of the race that time around, indeed the car's best lap of the race. So Colin Noble having to react a little bit to Alex Torrell's pace here in the Norma, and doing sufficiently well to extend that gap by about a second and a half. Then we've got in third position Alain Costa in the number 99 Ligier. Ross Warburton fourth, Maurizio Mediani chasing down Ross though. There's 7 seconds between those two cars right now. And Andy Merrick shortly to be joining Emilien Card in the 65 car. Now what happened here with the Norma picking off, or at least trying to pick off the 53 car, that was not cars on the same lap. And what happened to Melara on the exit? Just maybe a little bit of curb hopping. Melara down in 9th position, and the number 3 car, rather, second place on the road, is able to get by through that swoop of left and right at the second chicane. Here's the GT3 leader, Joe Osborne, still doing a good job out front, but again, being caught at times by Keane and by Babini.
Is he pacing this? Is he just struggling a little bit for pace?
Interesting question.
He's 21 seconds up the road from Phil Keane. That's still a healthy gap. Keane, though, is going to be under pressure more quickly from Fabio Babini, because that gap is, what, under 7 seconds now.
Yeah, and the Audi on the ragged edge at times, so Joe Osborne, I think, is still pushing on this second batch of Michelin tyres. The Audi looks pretty well planted heading into the first of the Lesmos there. But the team will constantly be keeping Joe Osborne updated with the progress of Phil Keane and of Fabio Babini, and they will be working out how many laps there are to go for that lead car. It will all be based on the overall leader, remember, and they'll be counting down, back timing, if you will, the remaining part of the race, 29 minutes.
Meantime, I think possibly on this lap, Maurizio Mediani, as we watch the progress of Phil Keane hustling along in that number 7 Limo Racing MG, but Maurizio Mediani is right on terms with Ross Warburton and is still closing on the third placed car ahead. So podium positions up for grabs here, without a shadow of doubt.
0.6 of a second found by Torrell on that lap, so back down to 5 seconds the gap between first and second. Alain Costa still in third position ahead of Ross Warburton, who has 3 seconds of a buffer over Maurizio Mediani, who is charging hard in the 55 Spirit of Race Ligier P3. So Mediani will be right with Ross Warburton towards either the end of this lap or the end of the next. Emilien Cart in the 65 car still running 6th ahead of Andy Merrick. And Merrick in turn 13 seconds adrift of the 6th place car. Then we have Matthijs Bakker and Laurent Melara in the 53 YMR car. Osborne over the line to complete 47 laps. Likewise Phil Keane, and the gap this time around, well, only a 10th found by Fabio Babini on that lap. So Keane is adjusting his pace accordingly.
So if you're a lover of this forward racing, and why on earth wouldn't you be, try more than double this number of cars on a track more than double the length of this, with a fantastic crowd of around 250,000 racegoers for Le Mans week, and that sort of describes the double-header 55-minute races that are going to take part for round 2 of, and another off for the 44.
In the gravel, second chicane, I'm going to say.
And second time this car, I'm afraid, has had a bit of a rotation.
Yeah, so whether that was as a result of contact or whether the car lost it on its own, that's exactly what happened. It lost it on its own, a bit too much curb.
Oh, a little bit of air as well.
Clatters over the sausage curb through the second part of the chicane, and that wheel was moving a bit too much, the rear wheel for me, maybe. It's bent a track rod or something similar, maybe a bit of a wishbone issue for that rear left.
Little bit quick through a double yellow zone there for a couple of these cars, I have to say.
Yeah. No overtaking by any of them, but with 4 marshals out on track, together with a snatch vehicle, a bit more respect required for these brave marshals who are trying to recover this car for the benefit of everybody else. 2 marshals waving flags there, and just to get the towing eye out from the front of that car is a job in itself. That's now been released, and the 44 car of Kim Rocha will now hopefully be pushed back into the race.
That's going to need a tow. No way they're going to get that out under marshal power.
So the Danish driver, who shares the 44 car with Alvaro Fontes, they're both bronze rated, by the way, so either of them could have taken part in qualifying earlier on today. And the Rodkier learning with every turn of the wheel, but exploring bits of Monza that you really shouldn't as well, including the gravel trap down at the second chicane. There's Ross Warburton, having taken over the number 14 RLR M Sport car from Alex Capadia after a great stint from Alex. And Ross is doing well here to hold on to a 5th place right now, because Maurizio Mediani made swift work of the 14 car. Now, how close is Emilian Card? Very close, yes.
And quicker, so may well lose at least 1 further position before the end of this race. But this is progress for Ross Warburton.
Won't be able to do it here, Cart, into the yellow flag zone, although that 44 car's now been moved to a safer position, through into the green flag area, so Card could have a look at the inside of the first Lesmo.
That's Peter Cox.
Oh, is it?
That's Peter Cox.
Thank you.
Is the car behind that, I think.
Yes, you're probably right. So we're looking at the 48 car. Yes, Peter Cox for Cox Racing, trying to unlap himself, actually, after a real tricky stint with Nico Pronk driving the 48.
The tricolour-coloured 65 car of Graf Racing, now alongside Ross Warburton, takes a position.
Yes, and Card gets by into the braking area for the Ascari sequence of corners.
And he needs to push on as well, because Andy Merrick now 9 seconds back from Card in this battle for 6th position. So the car we're looking for now, not the one there. There's Merrick in the orange and grey car. So Ross Warburton is now the target for Andy Merrick, as the 44 car is released. Now, I think you may be right. I think there might be damage to the rear of that car.
Yes, possibly. Rear left. We've been in this situation before, with gravel being thrown at the back of a P3 car. That was Nico Pronk that did it earlier on. So add a bit more gravel to the mix now into a crucial slowing area at Lesmo 1. To be fair to the driver, staying well offline.
Seems okay, actually. Maybe not that wheel moving around.
Okay.
We'll soon find out.
Well, yes, and it really depends on how quickly Rodkier starts to push. Looks like the hammer's well and truly down now through the left-hand kink at Curva del Serralio, so seems happy with the car at the moment. What everyone else will be unhappy about is all that gravel being thrown across the track for a second time in this race. Fabio Babini still trying to hunt down Phil Keane, but actually those 2 cars lapping at a very similar pace now, so the Mercedes well and truly up to speed. And what Phil Keane is trying to do is edge a bit closer to Joe Osborne. Did so again there, gained about a second on the GT3 leader. But there may be an element of Joe Osborne driving within himself to an extent. Babini working his way through the Ascari chicane as Alex Terrell starts to turn up the wick now in the number 3 car. That Norma, second on the road, and Consent's Blood, and maybe trying to hunt down Colin Noble at a faster rate of knots, well aware that we're into the final 23 minutes of this race.
Yeah, there's going to be quick fire positional change here. Next is going to be Andy Merrick now is catching number 14 Ross Warburton, who's dropping down the top 10. And Merrick not under any pressure from behind, but is rapidly catching Warburton. Less rapidly catching, but still catching Cardiff for 5th. So 5th is still got potential there. Maurizio Mediani, meanwhile, is with Costa for 3rd position, and that is that battle. Yep. It's got the EP Motors Lamborghini between them, but the Ligiers either side of Lamborghini. This is a battle for a podium position.
Merrick, by the way, has got by Ross Warburton then. That's confirmed, and he's into 6th position as these 3 cars all together charge their way into the second chicane. Up the inside there goes Babini. And now we look and concentrate on this fight within LMP3.
It's not going to take long, I don't think. There he goes. Through goes Mediani. That is 3rd position. Yellow flags out there. We've not seen for what yet.
Interesting.
It's for the number 23 car. That's the first chicane, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Good spot. So actually not connected to the other incident. And Andy Merrick has just got by that car as well, or was about to shape it up, but they're not on the same lap, which means then with a spin.
And recovery.
He has recovered. That's good to see. So yellow flags quickly withdrawn. 3.3 seconds is now the gap between Colin Noble and Alex Tyrrell at the head of the order, and Colin Noble starting to up the pace as well with his best lap of the race on lap 52.
But his best lap of the race was only good enough to eke out 7/1000ths of a second of an advantage over a charging Alex Tyrrell. This is an engaging battle, isn't it?
Meanwhile, charging their way down to the second Lesmo, the number 9 car of Joel Janko and Richard Means.
That's the recovering Richard Means, and that is for position. That's for 13th position overall. So there is a number 3 car. That is the race leader just ahead. This is the lead battle. 20.5 minutes to go. And it comes down to this.
Yeah, 3.3 seconds, but in reality, that's what it looks like. The cars between Variante Ascari and the Parabolica now, and who can get the better exit out of this long, lingering right-hander that ends the lap at Monza. The gap at the start of it was 3.3 seconds. They cut across the timing loop now, and it's a fastest lap of the race from Alex Tyrrell. So he really is throwing down the gauntlet here to race leader Colin Noble. Colin will know he's in a fight here. A 1:47.029 from Spaniard Alex Tyrrell in that best placed Norma, and Norma want the victory here to sock it to the rest of the Ligiers.
Yeah, it's the motor racing equivalent of James Bond wandering in the casino and chucking it all down on red, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic lap there from Alex Tyrrell. Under 3 seconds, the leading gap. Behind them, Mediani looks pretty comfortable now, pulling away a little from Costa. Carde is catching Costa. Merrick is catching Carde. So that realistically at the moment, with the pace we're seeing from these leading cars, if no dramas, what am I saying, interrupt, is the battle for 4th position. It's a 3-way battle for 4th position. A little bit of smoke there from the rear of the Nielsen car. Just a puff of smoke. Watch for that again.
Also some good times coming through from the GT3 runners. That's Joe Osborne's best lap in the Audi. And Phil Keen's best lap in the Mercedes number 7, the Le Mans Motorsport AMG. Through the second Lesmo goes Joel Janko, and that car is currently 14th in the overall standings, and a bit further down as far as the P3 part of the race is concerned. Well, just tucked in behind Richard Means, actually. So 10th in class.
Yeah, Joe Osborne is upping the ante all of a sudden. Puts in the fastest lap of the race for the Optimum Audi, 150.7, to just pull out a little bit more of an advantage over Joe Osborne, over Phil Keen rather. And Babini, meanwhile, takes another slice out of Phil Keen, metaphorically.
Yes, but whittling away slowly but surely at that gap that separate the Mercedes, the red LMM AMG, and the dark blue and flat gold liveried Lamborghini number 46 of EB Motors.
Watching this battle between, it's a 13th position, Richard Means ahead of Joel Janko, but the lead battle now under 2.5 seconds. 147.7 plays 147.3 last time around. Colin Noble from Alex Tyrrell. Victor Mediani, as we said, in a comfortable 3rd position now, having taken that position from Costa in the N Race 99 Ligier. Costa is being caught, and caught quickly now by the number 65 Graf Racing car, with Andy Merrick still making ground on the 65, albeit not as quickly. But that 3-way battle separated by something like 14 seconds for the 4th, 5th and 6th place cars. And it's getting to the stage where that looked as if, at this rate, Costa will lose 4th position to Cardet, but Cardet will be caught by the end of this race by Merrick.
There's the number 9 car turning into the second Lesmo, and Joel Janko pushing on to try and catch Richard Means. Meanwhile, here's the number 3 car of Alex Tyrrell then. 2.4 seconds adrift of Colin Noble, and in the background, well, not quite in the background, quite a way down now, Maurizio Mediani, but he is still able to lap at a similar pace to Noble and to Tyrrell, so that gap is opening up between Mediani and Alain Costa. But there, in the same shot for the lead of this race, as the sun starts to think about dropping in the sky here at Monza, we're late in the evening, a bit of great evening Le Mans style racing then.
In the last lap around, the gap was 2.477 seconds. This time around, the gap is 2.477 seconds. Both cars, the lead battle, lapping in 1 minute 47.654. That must be frustrating, really, or encouraging, depending on which way you look at it. Identical lap times for the two leaders. The gap still under 2.5 seconds. 16 minutes remain.
They couldn't try that again, even if they had a good go at it. As we hear about a drive-through penalty for car number 98 and 53. Drive-through penalty for car 53 for speeding in the pit lane. And I think 98 was included on that message as well. So that'll be Andy Merrick for 6th position, having to come down pit road.
So 33's taken a penalty. That is the 8th position car at the moment. Drops them out of contention for improvement, for the moment at least.
2.2 seconds the gap, with 15 minutes to go of this opening round for the Michelin Le Mans Cup 2017. Next stop Le Mans, with a double dose of action. 2 55-minute races arranged for the lead up to the big race in June, and then we have rounds for this Michelin Le Mans Cup to come in Austria and also at Paul Ricard at Spa and at Portimao. As the race leader exits the Parabolica, Nielsen Racing, run by David Thompson, better known as Sven, based not very far away from Rockingham Motor Speedway in the UK. Alex Tyrrell coming down past the pits as well, and sadly I was right about 98, that car coming in then to serve its pit lane penalty, and also 99 in, so that Costa.
So that was the two battling cars for 5th position. Both will take that run through pit lane. Both now back out. It's cost them some time, and it's probably cost them any chance of improving against anything other than each other in that battle.
Also an interesting reference point as far as if you just go down the pit lane and don't stop with the team, it takes you 25 seconds. I'll note that down in readiness for the European Le Mans Series race tomorrow, because the teams in LMP3 that have to do 2 mandatory pit stops according to a minimum pit stop time will be working on the 25 seconds, and also how long the car is actually stationary for, to make sure that they don't breach that minimum time.
I thought for just a moment you were implying that discipline levels in the LMS might mean that we might see some drive-through penalties. How very dare you, sir?
What? How on earth could I think such a thing? No, I'm always in awe of the team managers who have to factor in how long it takes you to start from the, obviously, pit lane entry, come to the team and then leave again, and it's all about setting them off at the right time.
Absolutely right.
Inside that envelope. Very, very tricky thing to do, but as long as you believe your stopwatch and not your inner feelings to get going sooner than you want to, then that's absolutely fine. Here are the two leaders. They're getting closer. You don't need a timing screen to tell you that. 1.4 seconds now is the gap between Noble and Tyrrell. So what's happened to Colin on this final run towards the end of lap 57? He's dramatically slowed.
Well, not that dramatically. I just wonder whether or not this little Norma is actually doing better on the tyres than maybe the Ligiers. It's 0.7 second now.
That
so
was a slow lap.
It was a much slower lap, but he's still in the 148. It's not a slow lap from Colin Noble. It's just a quick lap, a very quick lap, and the second fastest lap of the race, in fact, from Alex Tyrrell. 147.033.
Tells you a lot about the Norma's pace, doesn't it? That gave me the impression that Colin Noble had made an error somewhere. Maybe not. His average lap time was still pretty respectable, but 0.718 of a second now, the gap between first and second place cars.
Well, the Ligier guys have all been saying they're looking for some competition in this LMP3 category. Well, like it or not, you've got some. They've been looking at that little Norma and telling us all the while through the development of this car, it looks quick. We're quite worried by the potential pace. quite right that they should be so. It was on pole position, and under a second now separates double British LMP3 race winner Colin Noble and the DKR engineering car, the number 3. Norma, there she is. Both good-looking cars.
By the way, Alain Costa and Andy Merrick will be nose to tail right now for 5th and 6th places. So despite those pit stops, 99 and 98 very close to one another now. And that will decide who finishes in the top 5. Emilien Carte got by Alain Costa a little while ago, probably when the pit stop was taken by 99. And Carte now up to 4th spot.
Yeah, not quite enough, that run through the pits to allow Ross Warburton to retake those 2 cars.
As the leaders are at the Parabolica, this time over the line. We'll just have 11 minutes to go. So that will be...
In the pits.
Oh, the leader's in. Now, leader in. Now, why is this? And fully locked up and almost crossed up is Alex Tyrrell. Didn't see a message about a drive-through penalty for the number 3, but I might have missed it, I have to admit. So this is going to destroy the chance of a really good fight towards the finish between Colin Noble and Alex Tyrrell. Takes massive pressure off the shoulders of Colin Noble, doesn't it, Graham?
It most certainly does. Maurizio Mediani's not close enough to take advantage here. But what a shame for the DKR engineering team. There goes Ross Warburton through to unlap himself in the 2nd place car.
Yep, so no change in the order, despite that number 14 car being well and truly in the mix at the start of this race, and for much of that opening stint for Alex Capadia. Warburton had fallen, and indeed has fallen off the lead lap, but he gains a lap back at least on the number 3 car. And Alex Tyrrell may well be kicking himself after that radio message that I have to admit I had missed, but that was just a straight drive through. Didn't stop with the team. Another 25-second job, and 6.6 seconds is the gap. It's got 10 minutes to try and whittle away at that now and make sure that that car finishes at least 2nd.
Meantime, battle for 2nd position in GT3. 5 seconds between Phil Keane, who has responded. 5 seconds between Phil Keane and Fabio Babini. It is, just looking at what the gap is between, it's 21 seconds. Joe Osborne has lost absolutely no time to either of the pursuing pair in about the last 15 minutes. So he's been pacing this gap and pacing it well, but Babini, well, bit between his teeth. You can see the AMG ahead. He's closed that gap, but can he close it to the point where positional change is a possibility? There's still a P3 car between them. It's Peter Cox in the 48 car, delayed earlier on with a couple of issues for Nico Pronk, and will finish well down the order. But much of the interest in terms of podium positions lies with these 2 GT3 cars. That's Mercedes AMG GT3 in the hands of Phil Keane, number 7 car, and this, the 46 EB Motors Lamborghini Huracan GT3 in the hands of Fabio Babini.
And 5 seconds is the gap between Phil Keane's Mercedes and Babini's Lamborghini Huracan. They have the LMP3, a stray LMP3 between them, but that won't affect Babini at all, as down underneath the bridge, underneath the banking, goes the Lamborghini Huracan.
Trouble for the 2nd place car. It's back on pit lane.
And is that serving a longer penalty? Maybe Tyrrell didn't get the message. Were the team looking at the car?
I wonder whether or not he actually did brake in time, whether or not he was getting a pit lane speeding penalty.
So you come in to serve your first penalty and get another one in the process, and that was more severe because that was what looked like a stop-go. Took Alex Tyrrell 39 seconds to serve that pit stop.
And crossing the line behind Joe Osborne there in shots and closing fast is Maurizio Mediani, who was in 3rd position.
Well, Tyrrell came in with, what, a 40-second lead over Mediani. It's taken him 39 seconds to go through the pit lane, so that should be about right. Mediani, thinking he might have been out of this for a top 2 finish, well, it's very much back on again. 7.5 minutes to go for Maurizio Mediani at his home race, remember, trying to close in on Spaniard Alex Tyrrell.
And we'll look at what that gap is in real terms. Of course, 39 seconds on pit lane does not equate to 39 seconds lost, because he's still making forward momentum for 25 of those seconds, albeit at a reduced rate. But it isn't going to be 39 seconds either, is it? My guess would be closer to something like 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah. a chunk of those seconds, as you say, he is entirely stopped, so giving about 7 seconds away to, or 14 seconds away to the car behind him. But this will certainly spur on Maurizio Mediani, and that car, well, we'll get a realistic gap in just a second between Mediani and Tyrrell.
There's Tyrrell.
Car 75's pit stop is under investigation now. That's the GT3 leader. So what is the issue with car 75? Their pit stop under investigation. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have a penalty dished out. They're just looking into it.
So could this end up being the lead battle for GT3?
Phil Keane.
Optimum looking concerned.
And Fabio Babini, and Keane has just done the car's best lap of the race. There's the Audi in question. And Optimum Racing will be racking their brains thinking, what did we not do? What should we have done? There are concerns down in Optimum Racing, and Joe Osborne, well, he's probably not being told this at all at this stage, but he was as late as he dared on the brakes there down into the chicane.
Meantime, that gap for second position is 6 seconds. It's 6 seconds, 6 minutes to go. 6 seconds between Tyrrell and Mediani, the number 3 Norma, the number 55 Ligier, and a quick lap time last time around for Mediani as Tyrrell got back up to speed. Well,
it's a drive-through penalty. It's a drive-through penalty for car 75 for a pit stop infringement. Decision number 11 just tells us which number decision it's been for the clerk or the steward, so that doesn't give us any idea as to what regulation has been breached by Optimum Racing, but clearly footage has been watched and re-watched. And Joe Osborne, together with Flick Haig, are going to be penalised here. The 75 car has to come in, serve a 25-second drive-through. Well, that's how long it takes from one end of the pit lane to the other. And
it's going to be really tight.
Yes,
it's going to be really, really tight. This is going to put them nose to tail. In what order, I couldn't tell you at the moment.
So we got Phil Keane second on the road, Fabio Babini third on the road, but this is set to really condense the field within GT3.
So it's 16 seconds at the moment is the gap between Joe Osborne and Phil Keane. 18 seconds. He's got to run through the pit lane. That will take 25 seconds, but he's still moving. Still moving. So I think he will come out ahead, but it won't be very far. And you've still got, here he comes, still got Babini catching quickly. Now, anyone who is saying, well, there's not very many GT3 cars in this, that'll be very boring. No, 4 minutes. And we can have these three, I think, no still. Here they come.
Well, here comes Phil Keane, and he's already on the grid hatchings now, about to surely pass the Audi, which cannot go above 60 kilometres per hour down the pit lane. And I'm not sure how much Joe Osborne will know about this, but Babini's by as well. And Joe Osborne, all of a sudden, is thrown this massive challenge to try and hunt down the two GT3 cars up ahead.
Well, I think we're about to find out how quickly that Audi can go.
3 minutes and 50 seconds, and Joe Osborne as late as he dares again on the brakes. Well, he's been pushing pretty hard anyway, but there are the concerned looks down at Optimum Racing. Clearly they've done something that Eduardo Freitas and his team in the pits did not like.
Lest you think this is all over, by the way, in GT3, Fabio Babini is now 3.5 seconds behind.
Yep. Now
the new leader, that's Phil Keane, a car that was well on fire 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's been through the mill, you could say.
And I do mean that literally.
Or through the mill tech, perhaps we should say as well. AMD Tuning looking after that car, but it's under the banner of Limol Motorsport this weekend, and Phil Keane is driving the wheels off it. But Fabio Babini, he's virtually in his backyard. I think it was 2 years ago he came in here in the Blancpain Endurance Series for the Huracan's debut and performed brilliantly well in those bright green cars. Fabio Babini has been round the block in GT racing. 2 minutes and 55 seconds. He's getting closer and closer to Phil Keane. There they are, heading through the Variante Ascari now. The question is, are there enough laps left in this for Fabio Babini to get close to the Mercedes and maybe even think about overtaking it?
Fabulous stuff. In unfortunate circumstances, but it does with 2.5 minutes remaining, so that will be, what, 2 racing laps now after they cross this the line here. 2 more laps for these cars.
But the rules are there to be adhered to, and they're stated in the sporting regulations at the start of the season. And they tend to be these sort of mistakes that whatever Optimum Racing have done, they tend to be the sort of mistakes only ever made once. 2 minutes to go, and the gap between the second and third place P3 cars is only 5 seconds, as Maurizio Mediani's trying to force an error from Alex Tyrrell. Well, he's kind of had two problems during this race. A straight pit lane visit to do the drive-through, and then we can only think earned himself another penalty, because that was a stop-go. Assessed a second penalty after he was fully locked up heading into the pits for the first time. Minute and 45 still on the clock, with Phil Keane charging on his way towards the second chicane. There is the race leader, Colin Noble, on lap 64.
He has lifted off on his pace. He doesn't need to push now. 1:52 last time around. Because, of course, a comfortable gap now after the Norma adjudged at least one penalty. We don't know about the
no, we don't.
Second.
You're very right there, and only caught the back end of the second pit lane visit. Well, let's count the first pit lane visit as the mandatory stop. There was then a drive-through. There was then another visit to the team, and whether that was another penalty or just an issue that the team had clocked for the number 3 car, can't tell you. A minute left on the clock.
So Babini still 3.5 seconds back from Phil Keane in the lead battle for GTE and 10th overall. Mediani 4 seconds back from Tyrrell in the battle for second place overall. And this is the penultimate lap, certainly for this GT battle. As the number 7 Mercedes works its way through the Parabolica, that car is going to squeeze one more. Well, it effectively would squeeze another lap out of it, but it all depends where the leader is, doesn't it? Leader is now coming down to Parabolica. Yeah. Andy Merrick behind him and looking to lap himself here from the leader, who's off the power. Merrick wants to get back past. Well, Colin Noble wants to win it here, doesn't he? And maybe has just allowed the Andy Merrick car back through. And Merrick, is going to Merrick's car, is he going to serve a penalty? 8. It's close, isn't it? And the team will be on the radio now going, just ease off, just ease off. You've got a minute's lead. We just need to win it from this point. And now the checkered flag is waved for the race winner, Nielsen Racing. It's Tony Wells and Colin Noble who take the first victory of the season. Fabulous strategy towards the end there with that minute buffer over the number 3 Norma. They could afford to just back well and truly off. He allowed Andy Merrick through, and it was done safely into the Parabolica, and it meant that the 79 car would not have to go round for an extra lap. This team, this car and that driver, 3 in a row, 2 in the UK, 1 here in their first appearance in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, the first race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup with LMP3 machinery. Here comes the, it has to be said, unlucky. Can we use that word in these circumstances? Yeah, I think so. And certainly the number 3 car showed fabulous pace, didn't it? It did indeed. So that promises much for the rest of the year. This could be great stuff through this season. Here it comes. With its 3 pit stops to its name, the last of those will remain unexplained as to whether that was a penalty or the need to visit the team for whatever the problem was. 39 seconds, that final pit stop. Alex Tyrrell over the line now, and the gap between him and Maurizio Mediani was about 5 seconds at the flag. Here comes the leading GT3 car then, Phil Keane. The car was started by Lee Moll of Lee Moll Motorsports, and it'll be Mercedes with their AMG to take the first victory of the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup then in the GT3 part of the race. Fabio Babini pushed him hard, and the gap was 2 seconds in the end between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini Huracan, and Joe Osborne crosses the line a further 8 seconds back in the Optimum Racing Audi R8. Well, I didn't expect, well, I certainly expected that 3 in GT3, but not necessarily in that order. Absolutely. Gripping stuff there. First win, by the way, for the AMG GT3 in an ACO Worlds race. Yeah, tremendous stuff. Kept us getting to the finish, did that race, and Stevie S in the number 8 car crossing the line in 4th position, which you get decent points for SVC Sport Management. But there is, on the slowing down lap, Colin Noble for Nielsen Racing. A big shout out to Tony Wells, who started the car from the front row and only dropped as far down as 4th prior to the stops. Then some great work, as you say, from Colin Noble, who has that victory mentality, doesn't he, now? And that record of won the cars, having stopped on the pit straight immediately after the start-finish straight. I think that's the 22 car.
You might well be right. So that car's had its dramas through the race.
Matt Bell, by the way, improving to 15th after losing a full lap, let's not forget, at the start of the race. But this will be joy unconfined for Sven and the boys at Nielsen. Correctly so. Pretty faultless run from them.
Yeah, indeed so. And making the step up to international motorsport then, Noble and Wells with Sven at the helm. And Sven is there, in fact, the second guy about to embrace the race winner Colin Noble, and carrying the Kyriakos badge and livery and the number as well. 79 was always the Kyriakos back in the Le Mans days, so they've adopted a number of traits from the great Scottish brand and team name. And there is Tony Wells as well, by the way, congratulating his co-driver Colin Noble.
22 out of fuel, hopefully not leaking, but out of fuel at the end of that race. But they pushed hard.
They did.
They'd be delighted with that. That was a very engaging race indeed. I don't know about you, Johnny, but I like this mix of GT3 and LMP3. Can't wait for Road to Le Mans.
Because it's not as cut and dried as I thought it would be, as in a bank of LMP3s and then the GT3. They get well and truly in the mix, don't they? And you never quite know how far up a GT3 car might finish. 10th place in this case, could have been higher at certain points. And fascinating to see where the GT cars are stronger on this Monza circuit and where the P3s come into their own. And obviously with Le Mans to come, but then the rest of the full season of the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup to 4 further rounds, it promises to be an entertaining season. Let's get some reaction, though, from the winning duo who join now Charlie George in the pit lane.
Indeed, I am here with our winning drivers. How happy are you with that result?
I can't tell you how happy I am. That was absolutely amazing. It was such a good... I mean, it started so well with qualifying, and the start went okay, and you know, I sort of plodded around and tried not to lose too much time, and then obviously Colin just drove really well at the end. I mean, it was super, wasn't it? I mean, honestly, I was like so so tense until the drive-through, but still, amazing drive.
And Colin, we love that bit of strategy at the end, slowing right down to take that checkered flag.
Yeah, it's getting a wee bit close on fuel. It wasn't the most comfortable ending going round there. It's kind of a bit nervous, but Tony did the hard work earlier in the day and got us right at the front end of the grid and handed the car over in a great position, and I just needed to bring it home.
Well done, guys. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As Colin says, it needed that platform that Tony Wells built up in the opening stint for then Colin to take the car over. And arguably he had the easy job, I suppose, to make sure he kept it neat and tidy. He had to do some overtaking along the way as well. There on the left is Lee Moll, big grin on his face. Phil Keane still with the helmet on, just having a chat with the Lee Moll Motorsport guys there, many of them with the AMD branding as well as they run, and you can see AMD indeed on the sleeve of Lee Moll there too as well, wearing the British GT overalls that also double up as the Le Mans Cup overalls as well. There is confirmation of the race result, though. Nielsen Racing, after 64 laps, winning by 52 and a bit seconds from DKR Engineering's Norma. Third position with the spirit of the race, Ligier of Claudio Sidanovic and Maurizio Mediani. From Graf, from Motorsport 98, and then N-Race, RLR M Sport coming home in the 7th place with Alex Capadia and Ross Warburton, ahead of M Racing and Ibran Pardo Javier. And then the GT3 element, it was finished 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th in the overall standings. A win for Lee Moll Motorsport from EB Motors, Optimum Racing's Audi and the SVC Sport Management Lamborghini Huracan. We should get some reaction as well from Lee Moll Motorsport. So let's hear from either Lee or from Phil with Charlie George.
Yeah, I'm down here with the guys. Lee, it's been an eventful weekend. What a great way to finish with a win.
Yeah, huge surprise for us, I think. You know, we'd have taken a podium at the start of this, start of the morning, because we had a disaster on Friday with a fire, so we got no running. And, yeah, pretty poor quali for me, because obviously that was my first 4 or 5 laps. So, yeah, miracle, really.
But you'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we must have done something right somewhere along the line.
Thanks very much. Well done, guys.
So, thanks.
Phil Keane always quite a quiet guy, does his talking on the track, and he looked relatively chilled, despite having been hunted down by Fabio Babini for much of that latter stint. Babini knows this place like the back of his hand, but he couldn't get close enough to Phil Keane. And whenever Babini gained a bit of ground, Phil Keane seemed to be able to react in that Mercedes.
He did, and I think it was a controlled drive there from Phil Keane. Maybe not a driver that's known that well internationally. He should be, because he's a top draw. In fact, to be honest with you, all the pros involved in that final battle, Joe Osborne and Fabio Babini, top draw from very different eras, of course. But some great stuff there, up and down the grid in both classes.
Phil Keane's won the Sunoco Challenge in the past to get into the Daytona 24 Hours as well. We'll look back on the highlights for the last couple of hours then, which at times whipped on by. There was so much action. This was the start with GT3 cars mixed in with LMP3 machines. It was a good getaway from Jean Glorieux in the orange and black Norma, just getting ahead of Tony Wells, but Wells kept it neat and tidy, slotted into second position, and as I say, only lost a couple of more places later on in the stint. Tony Wells will be in action again tomorrow as well in the European Le Mans Series. We have the spin then and the incident involving, well, at least 2 cars, possibly 3 at the second chicane, and then down towards the latter portion of the lap. This was the issue for Kyo Racing and for Mori Yoshiharu. Then there was that part spin for Alex Capadia. A bit of a moment there for the number 14 RLR M Sport machine. And this was the battle within GT3 with, at the time, Flick Haig fighting with Emanuele Busnelli, also the red Mercedes of Lee Moll. And Lee had to soak up an awful lot of pressure there from the orange Lamborghini. A moment on the curb there for the 55 car, although well recovered. EB Motors car making a relatively early stop, and then the Mercedes likewise. Actually, Lee Moll staying out longer than any of the other GT3 cars. And then we saw the former race leader rejoin, but that wasn't the only time that the number 3 car from DKR Engineering would be seen in the pit lane, sadly for them. Battle on track, which saw Colin Noble go around the outside of Ross Warburton to take the race lead at the time. And Noble, heading into the second chicane, did not look back from this point. Also, Noble charging hard into the Lesmos and using every bit of track available to him and a bit more. This was the point when the then GT3 leader had to come through to serve a drive-through penalty. Still need to get to the bottom of exactly which regulation was breached during the 75's pit stop. But across the line, virtually at walking pace, Colin Noble, and the car that was driven earlier on by Tony Wells taking the victory there in Nielsen Racing, celebrating on the pit wall, and over the line for Lee Moll Motorsport, a win for the Mercedes AMG. And this is the podium then for the LMP3 cars. So we'll have on third position the Spirit of Race overalls of Claudio Sudanovic and Maurizio Mediani, Jean Glorieux and Alex Terrell to the left of your picture. And here are Tony Wells and Colin Noble taking the victory for Nielsen Racing. And we will hear the national anthem of the winning team. There is the British national anthem echoing around this Monza circuit. Michelin caps going back on for Tony and for Colin, and there will now be trophies presented on this not exactly unique podium, but reminds me a lot of Le Mans here, how it extends out over the pit lane and is in great sight of the main grandstands here on the straight.
It's fabulous.
It's a great place to have a podium, isn't it?
The prologue test, night testing, stood out there with a couple of colleagues and watched as the LMP2 cars in particular went steaming by at about 180 miles an hour in full darkness. Absolutely wonderful view from up there.
Yeah,
Tony Wells utterly delighted with that.
Yeah, the podium straddles the pit lane and the main track, and as you say, it sort of overhangs this long straight. I think Tony can't quite believe what's just happened. It's still sinking in for him.
I completely agree. Will slightly correct you, he's not in the LMS tomorrow.
I beg your pardon.
No,
right.
Just one double duty guy, Alex Capelia. But look, judging by that performance, and I think that team and those two men are ELMS bound sometime very soon. That was an excellent performance by the whole team.
So the champagne sprays for 6 guys who are very happy with their 2 hours of work, and Colin Noble and Tony Wells taking the opening spoils for the 2017 Michelin Le Mans Cup. Jean Cloriot and Alex Tyrrell thinking of what might have been. I think they had the pace possibly to win this race at DKR Engineering, but the race didn't quite fall for them. And well done to Claudio Sedanovic and to Maurizio Mediani, who complete the podium. And there's more champagne to be unleashed yet. There are the winning cars in Parc Fermé conditions sitting beneath the podium. And that podium will be quickly redressed in readiness for the GT3 presentation. Again, a question of what might have been. You could argue for Optimum Racing.
Well, there is one question that I'm sure Optimum Racing will ask, and it's a fair question, which is why was that pit stop under investigation message only shown this late in the race?
Yes.
Because what we'd said well into Joe Osborne's, as we see the points there, correctly so, Anthony Wells and Colin Noble leading the Drivers' Championship in LMP3 ahead of the other 2 podium finishers, but it left no time for Joe Osborne to react to the deficit, whereas he had been driving a pretty conservative pace, had he not, after his pit stop, knowing he wasn't under immediate threat. He held that gap and clearly was not aware that there was any question.
So just a bit of redressing required on the podium before we welcome the top 3 teams in GT3. Here is the Teams Championship within P3, so obviously leading the way, Nielsen Racing. You don't need to be a genius to work that out. It's later on in the season when we need to get the abacus out. And there is confirmation on how the points look, by the way, in GT3. Lee Moll and Phil Keane taking an early lead. The extra point going the way of the 46 car. That was for pole position within class, wasn't it? And here then, in second position for EB Motors, Fabio Babini and Emanuele Busnelli. We're still waiting for Optimum here. No Optimum. So Flick Haig and Joe Osborne have gone missing. I wonder whether they are in discussion with the steward. No, that's not Joe Osborne. To the far side. Here's the national anthem anyway. So for the second time, the British national anthem being played there for Lee Moll Motorsport. And congratulations to both Lee and to Phil Keane. Finishing in second position, Fabio Babini and Emanuele Busnelli. But the absentees on that podium are Flick Haig and Joe Osborne. Clearly the result under a bit of a cloud for Optimum Racing, and are they in deep discussion with race officials about exactly why they've been penalised there. The third body, by the way, on the top step of the podium is a team representative from Lee Moll Motorsport, and the champagne is about to be sprayed here. So I thought the mechanic team manager was about to get absolutely soaked by 2 bottles of champagne from both Phil Keane and from Lee Moll.
Quite correct, by the way. They should be recognised, as Lee said in the interview with Charlie a little earlier. Major work required on that car to recover from a pretty major fire with a fuel leak, a fuel system issue. The 79 car that's the LMP3 Teams Championship, Nielsen Motorsport from the Norma team, DKR Engineering. So there you have it, round 1. Lee Moll Motorsport from EB Motors. Optimum Racing and SVC Sport Management. No points, I'm afraid, for Ram Racing after that. Well, rather an assault, I'm afraid, on the Ram Racing AMG.
Yeah, so there's your pointless answer for the weekend. Well, that has really promised much for the rest of the year. There's plenty more to come, of course, from the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Hope you've enjoyed it. From Graham Goodwin and from Johnny Palmer, it is goodbye for now.